I'm just kidding. I'm not going to actually do that. Welcome to Adventures in Lollygagging. We are playing Call of Cthulhu tonight. We are specifically playing Regency Cthulhu, which has recently dropped from Chaosium, I think about a month or so ago. And it is Jane Austen meets Call of Cthulhu. We're taking the whole basic premise of Call of Cthulhu and we're putting it in the Regency period, in the countryside. In the English countryside, it's 1813 is where we're at. But yeah, that's what we're doing. Is everyone ready? Everyone was practicing their British accents beforehand.
They're so bad. They're so bad. You're muted, Ashley.
I don't have a British accent to practice.
It went somewhere. It's not
Of
here
course I'm
anymore.
ready, Jeff.
Oh, long.
Mr. Bennett.
The accent.
Mr. Bennett, you have melted my heart. Oh, goodness. Have we all been watching enough Pride and Prejudice? Like, Steve,
Are you guys ready for our dating sim tonight? Because we're just gonna flirt.
I told him.
I love it.
I really hope. I really no, we're not British, Stanley. No, we're not British at all. No, oh dear.
Jeff, you do know what movie I did watch today, though.
Was it Flashdance, as I recommended?
It was. The GM tells me to watch a movie to get it ready for the game. That's what I'm going to watch.
Just a small town girl on a Saturday night.
I'm ready for your dance sequence.
This is because
that soundtrack is just so good. Though.
It's what, Irene Cara. Are you kidding me? She is delightful, wonderful. Oh, and rest in peace. She died earlier this year.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. We didn't kill her. It's fine. So, should I just try to do the whole night like this? Should I do that and just piss off all of my friends at Garblag Games?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I always think about that. I always think about, if any of my friends over at Garblag listen to this, they're going to get probably offended by my horrible accents. But then they try to do American, so I guess it's fair. It's fair. Goes both ways.
Everybody likes to try a John Wayne.
Yeah, I know that's what an American accent is. It's either Southern Valley Girl, or yeah, that's it. Southern or Valley Girl. That's it. Or like New York. We just did New York, something like that. Okay. I apologize,
Are we doing
Chantal.
Valley Girl Regency Cthulhu?
Oh my
I think
God.
that would be pretty cool.
Bust out Tiffany. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yeah, Southern or very Southern. That's true. It's Southern or very Southern. It's so good. Okay. So we're doing Regency Cthulhu. There are some small differences between Regency Cthulhu and your normal Cthulhu. It's mostly classic, but we're gonna put in some luck and a few other things like that when it comes to pulp rules. But mostly this is gonna be like a classic stuff if you're familiar. So everyone's frail and easy to kill. Not that I want to kill them yet. I want them to find love first. Then I want to rip it away from them right as they find it. So it's even more tragic. But there are a couple additional rules and stuff that we're kind of go over a bit, like reputation, a couple different interesting skills. We'll go over everyone's occupations and things like that because there is a gentleman, a gentlewoman, nouveau riche. Servant. Are you a servant, Johnson? Or are you an officer? You're specifically like an officer or something, right?
Me, I'm a captain.
Yeah. So there's a couple different.
Yeah,
basically, there's a couple different like occupations and things like that have been added or like tweaked in some way. And then there's been new skills. So a couple new interesting skills. I can go over these really fast, and you all might want to look at them because they might pop up. Astronomy. Is in here. Science has been taken out, so there's no science skill in all the variations of science that usually comes with a Call of Cthulhu game. Instead, there's like a mixture of like science and natural philosophy, or excuse me, astronomy and natural philosophy. But astronomy is like a study of the heavens, and it's not just like the way we think of like the heavy mathematical astronomy, but also like God and the heavens sort of type of deal. Credit ratings here. Credit rating is always here, but it also has like kind of speaks to your living standards and your wealth status within like the society that we're playing in. There's dancing. Dancing is a skill, and you will be required to tonight. There's no there's no drive auto, but there's drive carriage, of course. Now the big one is etiquette. Etiquette is a very important one, as etiquette will be rolled quite frequently, more than likely, and it essentially kind of governs your understanding of societal rules and behavior. And sometimes you might be asked to make a etiquette roll at certain points, just to be able to do certain things or to time certain things to make sure you're kind of doing this within the bounds of it. So if you don't really know how stuff works in Regency, that's fine. We'll do that. There's also fashion, which we're going to roll right off the bat to see how stylish your person is as they arrive. And there's gaming, which is mainly card games. There's also mesmerism. Does anyone have mesmerism? I should have probably looked more. Does anyone have mesmerism as a skill?
I don't think so.
And then there's
I do not.
And then, as I already mentioned, natural philosophy and reassure. So there's like no psychoanalysis and stuff like that, but there is reassure. Which it's almost like a mental heal skill, which is interesting. Allows them to get people to feel a little bit better.
All these special skills you're mentioning, I don't think I have any of them.
That's okay. That's okay.
They're all going to come up this session. I don't have them.
That is totally fine. I'm sure you'll be just okay. You don't have anything in dance. Etiquette. If you don't, you should have etiquette. Some etiquette.
I don't have anything in. I do have a tiny bit in etiquette.
Yeah.
You are correct.
Yeah,
that's one of my weaker skills.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's just do a quick round. Let's just do a quick round table. Introduce your characters. You got your character sheets. You can kind of go through, share what you want to share. You guys got your backstories and stuff like that. You can alter it however you feel. But we'll also, while we're doing this, we'll calculate your reputation score, because those shouldn't be they shouldn't be in there already. We'll get you some luck, and then we'll do your fashion roll. So let's start with Mr. James Bennett. Long.
Yes, James Bennett, at the fresh age of 22, a young gentleman out of university, educated in English and poems, literature and art. So, pretty much, my parents don't really believe in me, in my art, my works. They want me to get a real job, whatever that means. But I've got to find knack in this. I believe it can go far.
Undoubtedly, unsurprisingly to those who know me, James Bennett's my favorite character, because it's basically me, right? Just not young anymore. That's what it is. All right, so Long, let's do two things. Let's figure out your reputation score really fast. Reputation is a resource, effectively. So it's similar to like sanity and luck in that it'll go down. There'll be things that you might do that'll cause you to lose reputation. There'll be things that you might do that'll cause you to gain reputation. If at a certain point you lose too much reputation in a single day, you actually can become censured, which means you get a penalty die on rolls. So like society has found you lacking. So if you ever lose 1/5 of your day's starting reputation, like an in-game day, you become censored. So Long, all you got to do is take your credit rating, add it to your etiquette, and then divide by 2.
Let me just find where this credit is.
Thank you, Veronica.
Okay, credit rating of 60
Okay, what's your etiquette?
is 55.
Okay, so what is that? 115
115
divided by 2
is 57-ish.
So we'll say 50. I can't remember if it's round up or down. So take 58. Go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that is your starting rep.
Starting, all right.
Okay, so whenever I ask you to do like a reputation check or something like that, you might have to roll D100, compare it to your reputation score, and there you go. So just like rolling sanity, just for like rolling luck. Then as to your starting luck, we're going to do pulp rule. So roll 3d6 and then multiply it by 5. So for the rest of you, what we're going to do is we're going to use spendable luck optional rule. So if you fail a roll at any point, that's as long as you didn't fumble or as long as you didn't fail a pushed roll, you can spend luck if you would like to make up the difference in what you need to have hit. So if you needed a 60 and you rolled like a 75, you can spend 15 of your luck to make it succeed. You'll get more luck at the start of the next session too, because this is going to be a 2-session game probably.
Roll a 15.
Okay, so you rolled a 15 total times 5.
That's 5, 75.
There you go. And that's your luck score. Okay.
Nice.
And then last thing, Actually, no. We'll come back to the fashion. We'll all do the fashion stuff at the same time as we introduce people into the game. Melissa, tell us a little about Jane Radcliffe.
Yes. So Jane Radcliffe, I appreciate this description. While not a great beauty, Jane always knows how to present herself in the best light. Charming and friendly, but only to mask her fears and build allies. She's a con artist. That is what she does. She wheedles her way into, I don't think that's the right word. She basically makes friends with rich people, hangs around for a while, and then before they can like figure out what's going on, she leaves and then goes somewhere else. And that's what she does.
Fantastic. Okay. And if I recall correctly, your entry into the game recently, it was like because you are staying with the Northlakes, who is hosting the ball where we're going to start tonight's session. Yeah.
Her current marks, as it were.
You did the whole like, oh, my car broke down, I need some help. Except it was a carriage. It was pretty great.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. How unearthly irredeemable. Okay, so let's go ahead and do yours. What's your credit rating and your etiquette? Add those two together.
Credit rating is 20. Etiquette is 35.
Yeah, so that's no good. 20 and 35. So that's 55. So your starting rep is, let's say, 28.
Mm-hmm.
So you said what was it? Wait, what was your credit rating again? 20?
20.
Yeah, you're lower class. So 10 to 29% is considered lower class. Okay.
My only possessions in life are what I can fit in my carpet bag.
There you go. And there's plenty of things in this very wealthy home that you can go ahead and just put into there. Yeah.
But apparently I have made friends with the young lady of the house, Elizabeth.
Yes,
my first true friend. And now I might actually be growing a conscience, maybe.
Miss Elizabeth. Yes. Jane is like an older sister to Miss Elizabeth. It's wonderful. And then we get to the Wentworth sisters. And we'll start with Georgiana, who I believe is the older of the two. Is that not correct, yes. Ashley?
She is the older of the two. And she's accomplished but lonely. She's kind of resigned to her fate of being unwed, even though she would like to find a suitor. She believes that this is going to be her last social outing, and that mostly she'll be there to chaperone her younger wild sister.
Very good indeed. What is Georgiana's credit score in etiquette?
Credit is 60, etiquette is 45.
How? Well, goodness me, 105. That means 53. We're rounding up tonight.
Cool.
53 starting rep score. Also, let's do luck. Melissa, we should do luck for you too. It's 3d6, and then multiply that by 5. That's how much luck you'll start the game with.
3d6. 9
times 5, so 45 for Melissa. And you said 14?
Mm-hmm.
That should be 70, I believe, for Georgiana. Very lucky young lady indeed. Now to your younger superior sister, Emma Wentworth.
More desirable, some would say.
Yes. Tell us about Emma.
As terribly as Georgiana wants to find a suitor, Emma wants to find one for her even more, because I cannot be presented in society unless Georgiana finds a suitable suitor. So hopefully there is one among the many handsome men here tonight, because that is Emma's goal, is to hook her sister up.
This is what I'm here for. Oh my God. This is what I'm here for.
Very, very excited about that. She is a vivacious young lady with a lust for life, much to her parents' chagrin. And she has a talent for marksmanship, because she learned that being ladylike gets you nowhere, Georgiana. And so she's now on her own path. That includes hooking Georgiana up.
Fantastic. Okay, let's do your rep. So credit rating and etiquette.
So credit rating is 60, etiquette is 30.
Okay, so you have 45 then for starting rep?
Yep.
And then 3d6 times 5 for your starting luck.
So I rolled a 6 and a 6 and a 5, which means I am out of good rolls for the night.
17.
Wow.
And then gives me an 85.
That is a lot of luck. That's a lot of luck.
Man.
My first D6 roll was a 1, so
Yeah.
Oh no. You
I
can
think
only go up.
I'm done.
I've
I'm
got
done
some
with
left.
good rolls. That's it. I used them all up, guys. Sorry.
And then speaking of guns, we've got who is the commander of the British Army and has 2 guns? Mr. Commander Johnstone, Captain, something, whatever.
I don't normally bring my guns to a ball, though. Just the cavalry saber. A sword is plenty to defend myself with. I am my description says I am a white man weathered beyond his years by what he has seen. I am always immaculately turned out, a military habit that's impossible to break, especially in my dress uniform.
Okay, wonderful. And did you read all of your there's the extra page of the backstory and stuff as well?
Yeah, I read the extra page too.
Okay, you're
You want me to read that out loud now?
It's entirely up to you. I'm just saying that there's other things. That's all.
Let's let that come out later.
Sure, of course. The mystery of it all as he turns his hair and walks away. Emo. All your characters come up emo. Okay. Rep.
Jeff, this is Regency. I would have very short hair.
That is true. That is not entirely true. In fact, actually,
I'm a military man, though. I was fighting in the peninsula.
in 1813. You'd be surprised, actually. Now, let's do your.
I guess we
rep.
could go we could say like I'm Sean Bean in the Sharp movies.
You very much could have a
Sadness is all in
ponytail.
his brooding eyes.
You very much could have a ponytail, of course. Mr. Wickham, mind you, Mr. Wickham, that terrible, devilish man who ruined poor Lydia. And he had a ponytail. That's how you knew, because you know what is beneath a pony's tail? A horse's ass, indeed. Let's do your friend.
I don't know who Lydia is. I've read the second page, and I don't know what you're talking about.
So I was just making Pride and Prejudice references.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Mr. Wickham.
I didn't see that movie.
It's a book, but it became okay. Mr. Wickham,
I'm sorry, Jeff. I had
military
to kneel you.
man, childhood friend. Okay, Mr. Darcy, he ran off. And
Oh yeah, Mrs. Darcy. I remember a lot of people talk about her.
Short circuited him.
It's okay. I'm not upset. I'm living within an Austin universe right now, so I'm very happy. Okay, your rep. Credit rating plus etiquette, Stephen.
Yes, that is 80. So I think it goes down to 40 then,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah, you're right. Book,
And
TV
for-
show, other TV show. What other things? Mini series. Yeah, all of that kind of stuff. And the other thing is your luck, 3d6 times 5.
Yep, I rolled a 15. So same as Mr. Bennett there.
Okay. Fantastic. Okay. So if that's that, I think we got our stats and everything ready. Any final questions or anything like that before we begin?
Let's get fashionable.
Let's get fashionable. Okay. Let's see. Let's just start a little. Let's get a little music going here. So it is winter of 1813, and we were within the Wiltshire County, specifically near Terryford, which is where the majority of this will take place. And all of you have been invited due to your standing in the county as delightful gentlemen and ladies to a winter ball held by the prestigious Northlake family. The Northlakes are well thought of, and they have a single child. They have Miss Elizabeth, and they are taking advantage of a relatively calm and cool winter. It's not too terrible. Overcast, of course, somewhat dark, but not horribly cold, and snow has been very light, very little frost. And so they are effectively like the grandest family in this particular region. And they have invited all of you, amongst several other wonderful people, to this winter ball. Probably the last for some time, as the depths of winter will come soon. And so this is sort of like the last celebration. And so we begin then on a late evening. The sun has effectively dipped below the horizon, and there's just a tiny burn, and otherwise gray and white sky, touch of frost along some of the trees and the grass of the huge grounds of Northlake Manor. And we can see a host of carriages and horses that are approaching or are in the process of unloading their passengers, as various servants and staff are aiding or bringing horses or carriages to the livery, to the stables. And one by one, all of you will arrive. Some of you might even arrive together. What I would like you all to do is roll a fashion roll right now. D100. Compared to your fashion skill. And what you're going to do is you're going to describe the nature that you arrive. Like, how do you arrive at this place? Is it through carriage, shared carriage with others, personal carriage, horse? If men, it's okay. I don't really care. If women want to come up, they can do what they like. But men might arrive on horseback, or carriage as well. But I also kind of just want to see, like, what is your entrance? Like, how do you arrive? What do you look like? Now, fashion, don't forget it's a skill roll. So because of this, you can use your luck if you want here. And anytime you make a skill roll and succeed without spending luck, keep track of that, because you'll be able to improve that between sessions. So let's see. I'm just going to roll randomly to see who starts. Okay, Steven, you're up first, my friend.
What would happen if I did roll a failure?
It just means that you are that in terms of the fashion roll, all it is that you're lacking in style tonight. There's something about your outfit that is unseemly or ill-dated to the affair. Something about it isn't quite right.
I myself am not one to, put on an event like this. I also need to look my best. For His Majesty, of course. So I will spend a little bit of luck. I rolled a 19. I only have 10% fashion.
Okay, that's not bad.
So I'm going to spend 9 points. It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
He rolls up in an ugly sweater. 200 years too early for the trend. Okay.
So I imagine that I would be coming alone, probably on horseback, like you said. Mm-hmm. And I would be in my best dress uniform. And it might be a little wrinkled from the ride. But as soon as I get off the horse, I flatten it and press it and make sure that everything's put in the proper place. My saber is properly secured, and then I would proceed on in.
Okay. And you can see that there is currently kind of a shoveled and cleared, like a curved sort of passage that kind of rounds about in front of this beautiful portico with like these fluted, wonderful columns. You can see that there are torches that have been set up on various poles here and there to sort of line the driveway coming up, to line the portico itself. There are some people that are lingering outside. It looks like they're awaiting like a second carriage. Maybe they caravanned here in some way. Others are moving or being escorted right in. They're handing over their small, like, kind of calling card, their little invitation. You're kind of led up a flight of stairs by one of the staff who kind of takes the horse from you, and kind of looks you up and down. Are you in your dress unis, would you say?
Yes, I'm definitely in my dress uniform.
Okay, so as like this young man, we'll say probably in his late teens or so, well dressed for the occasion, but you can tell that he's certainly servant staff. He takes the reins of your horse and he says, I will take great care of your animal, Captain Stone. Thank you. And you can tell he knew who you were without sort of any introduction of some kind. And he kind of, you see his eyes kind of linger on your uniform for a moment, as if he's sort of appraising it in some fashion.
I would give him a curt nod and continue on in.
So he looks like he was going to risk saying something, but etiquette probably got the better of him, and he takes your horse and he kind of leads it away, and then you start wandering inside to the main hall. let's go ahead and introduce somebody new. Okay. Let's see. I think the Wentworths will come next because I rolled a 4 for Emma. You can do this together, or you can do it separately. Like, but how would the Wentworth sisters be arriving? Do we think?
Definitely together, I think.
By
if you're-
carriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that the Wentworth family has its own carriage, or would you say you have neighbors in the area that you are shared carriage? Are you riding just the two of you, or was there anyone else in the carriage with you on your way here?
Maybe another, like our neighbors.
Okay.
If yeah, so like kind of carpooling.
Are we talking young ladies? Are we talking a married couple? Like, what are we talking about? Who do we think?
What do you think, Maitri?
I think it's two young ladies, because I feel like that's been the convincing to the parents. Like,
So we're the
everyone's
party
going,
carriage
everyone's
right now.
going.
Okay. Okay.
You have to let me go.
This is like the what is it? What are they called? What's it called in Britain? Like what are bachelorette parties called in Britain? What are they called? Oh, someone in chat.
Hen parties.
Hen parties. Thank you. It's just like the hen party carriage.
A hen do.
Okay. So
Stag do and hen do.
I love it.
So one by one, you all are let out of the carriage. The carriage driver comes around, probably someone hired or on the staff of your parents, and they affix a step for you to easily get down, making sure your gowns don't touch the ground. While swept of frost and snow, it's somewhat cold out, so you can see everyone has some kind of coat or heavier garment over top of these sort of very regal gowns. But we'll start with Emma. Emma, want to describe what you look like when you get out of the carriage here?
Yeah, so it actually says on my character sheet that I have a colorful dress.
Okay.
So I think I should roll first. That is an 18 under a 50 something.
Okay. So
50.
that is not just a success. That is a hard success. That is 50. So you need a 25 for hard success. That's a really, really good success. So which means
amazing.
Yeah, you have a fairly glorious, probably one of the best, if not the best gown that we might see tonight.
Oh, it's fantastic because it's loud as hell. Like, it's this bright red number that again parents are really not okay with, but she's got this gold brocade coat over top of it, and her hair's up, and she's beaming at being at one of her first balls, and she's got Georgiana, like she's taken her sister by the arm, and she's really like we're arm in arm, and I think we see the back of Captain Stone, and so she leans over to Georgiana, and she's like, Georgie, what about him? And then that's how Emma steps out of the carriage.
Okay. And so then the camera then turns over to Georgiana. Ashley, how does Georgiana look as she has her arm suddenly looped inside that of her sister?
Well, it says my dress is elegant but plain.
Okay.
And I rolled a 4, and I didn't have anything in fashion, so I had a flat 10%.
Okay. It certainly doesn't have the loudness of your sister's, but it is nonetheless very, very elegant. Likely the two of you, this is the research I've done here because I've read the whole book. Likely the two of you have spent some time leading up to this ball in the town of Terryford. There are specifically 2 stores you might have been moving back and forth between to try to find which one might have had a better fabric for your work. So there's Mrs. Millicent Fortham of Fortham's Drapers, kind of an older woman who runs the store herself, and with her younger daughter, who is said to have just to be an absolute wizard with sort of fashion design. And there's also Mr. Isaac Elstone, a newcomer to Terryford, actually, and he runs Elstone's Muslins. And between the two are likely responsible for the vast majority of the fancier clothes that folks not in uniform are wearing tonight. So, Georgiana, you get your arm wrapped up with Emma. Mm-hmm. You look around. You see that there's a man of I think it's John Stone. It's average build, average height, but dressed in uniform. Perhaps some of the lapels or something are slightly askew, but they look very, very nice. As you see him stand momentarily at the top of the stairs, right in front of the door, this bright lights, braziers kind of hanging down from the ceiling, lit with fire, and he kind of turns back and he looks out at like the dark, cold countryside, and then turns back to go inside. We'll say you were joined in your carriage, we'll say, by the Babbingtons, by Cassandra and Portia. Those are your two.
Cassandra and Portia.
Yeah, and they will step out shortly after you all. We'll say your family is likely more well-to-do than theirs, and so they're riding in your carriage after all. But they follow, and the four of you, one after the other, as this group start going up the stairs into the party.
Mm-hmm. Georgiana is wearing this like muted green dress to complement her sister's dress, and then she has like not gold brocade, but she's got more of like a brown just kind of shawl that she has draped over more than anything that she's wearing.
Yeah, it's quite cool when you get out of quite cold when you get out of the carriage, but the closer you get and you're kind of passing by these torches and these large lit braziers, and then you get into the actual main hall where you see this gorgeous staircase in front of you. It's not your first time probably in Northlake Manor. All of you from this area have possibly attended one of their festivities before, whether during the summer or winter. So but each time you come in here, it's just the servants have outdone themselves. You can see there's kind of ivy wreaths and such that are weaved in through some of the railings of the stairs and kind of wrapped around some of the portico columns as well. And you hear the sounds of revelry here and there, as the ball hasn't fully started, but you can see that there's servants kind of hustling about. You can see groups of people have arrived before you through a couple doors. As you enter, you can see kind of this parlor area where it looks like tables are being set up potentially for some card games and such. And you know that they're kind of all our doors on either side of this grand staircase that leads into the ballroom at the back of the house. We'll go ahead and we'll skip over to Mr. James Bennett.
Rolled an 8 under 30, so I think that's pretty good. So I'm fashionable, but not always stylish. So I think I've got a fresh new coat, new tailcoat, nice little top hat. Arriving to the ball in a hired carriage that my parents planned ahead with some other noteworthy family. They're trying to set me up with a partner to go with the ball with. But I have no interest in her because she is not interested in the arts or poems at all. So I don't spend too much time to pay too much attention to her.
So you're in the carriage with this other young lady?
Yes.
Then in that case, there is most certainly a chaperone in here with you. There is no earthly way in society that the two of you would be allowed together, short of a proposal. So we'll say that... did you have an idea in terms of who this woman was? If not, I can
it's just completely random. I'm not sure.
Okay, and you don't like her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so her name is going to be Gertrude Harwood of the Harwoods of Terryford. Okay, so, and then she is here along with probably her, we'll say maybe maybe her mother and father are here as well. The Mr. and Mrs. Harwood is there. What have you been discussing? If she is not interested in poetry, what have you been discussing in this very long carriage ride? And you have been waiting for a not insignificant amount of time to be let out in front of the grand portico here.
They've been talking about much of science, something I don't really find attractive because there's no flavor to it. It's all very straightforward.
Yes. You're not interested in natural philosophy, Mr. Bennett?
No.
Young man such as yourself, inquiring mind. This is, we'll say, Mr. Harwood speaking to you. Poetry. Yes.
Yes, it's very close to the soul.
Well, you're still very young. I'm sure that you have time to mature and find something more suitable for a man of your stature. After all, if you have any interest in my daughter, and like you can see, like as he starts to say that and be a little bit too bold, his wife just ever so slightly kind of nudges him a bit, and he's like, "No, it appears we are ready to depart. After you, my dear." And he kind of like holds the door open, lets his wife and daughter out first, and then he kind of gives you a very disappointed look, kind of shakes his head even as you climb out. And we'll say you get out right as we see the Wentworth sisters and the Babington sisters, the hen party, disappear underneath the lit portico entrance into the mansion itself. You can see there are quite a few other horses and carriages that are still arriving, Mr. Bennett. And then finally, Jane, you are already here. So why don't we put it this way? First of all, what do you look like? You know, what are you wearing? How'd you do in your fashion role, etc.? And secondly, what have you been doing during the whole grandiose arrival of all of these people?
So Jane does not have anything in fashion. It's a 10%, and I rolled a 79. So.
Oh, yeah, she's wearing a garbage bag. Oh, just put a little hole in the top. Okay.
So, I'm wondering if maybe, because I'm living here, that maybe the missus of the house sort of loaned me something, but it is very clearly she is not going to be
Miss Elizabeth
upstaged at all, so it's not.
Miss Elizabeth is very glad to offer you a gown to wear. Unfortunately, Miss Elizabeth is a bit more petite than Jane, and so it does not fall on the body in a particularly flattering manner. There was hasty tailoring done. Unfortunately, Mrs. Millicent from town was unable to set aside enough time. So it's not the most comfortable gown for you, but it will do, of course. Okay.
And I would say that Jane is 23. She's definitely tries to act older than that, but she's also very taken with Elizabeth. And so I would imagine that they are being fairly girly, being like they think they're just off the side, and they're having their own sort of little commentary about everyone that's coming in that they probably think is being kept to themselves a bit more than it really is.
Yes, you see, as everyone's coming in, we see the players, of course. You see a few others. You see a somewhat young reverend, a kind of a morose, fairly sad man. He's well thought of in terms of his profession, by the name of Reverend Samuel Jennings, vicar of Upper Terryford Church, black man in his sort of late 30s. He arrived alone by himself, roughly the same time as Captain Stone. But when Captain Stone arrived, he was receiving a significant amount of attention from both men and women. Men kind of shaking his hand and kind of asking him, thanking him for his service and asking for updates in terms of the war against Napoleon. Young ladies kind of looking off from their groups, kind of over at a man in uniform. Reverend Jennings arrived with... you almost didn't see him at all as he kind of wandered in, his head somewhat kind of down. He's known to have a reputation for being morose, sad. He's not married, despite the fact that many of his parishioners, many of the people in his congregation are encouraging to do so. And seeing him here is kind of curious. And so maybe the two of you are kind of remarking on that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out who I'm going to try to pair Elizabeth off with, and I'm thinking that he might be my...
Okay. You can also roll if you would like to. If you're keeping an eye on somebody that you want to pair her off to, you can go. You can make a roll here. I'll take basically anything really. You can take kind of an etiquette to see and know who might best pair with her. So you can roll an etiquette check right now if you like.
Let's see. My etiquette is... I don't have a whole lot of luck here. I rolled a 49. My etiquette is 35.
Okay.
But why not? I dote on Elizabeth, so sure.
Okay.
I'll
So
spend the 14 luck to get that.
okay, so if you pass, then you know that they've already arrived, and they have the family has the Potterton family of Tollingate, from one kind of town over, basically, and the father of that family, Mr. Henry Potterton, is not here, but in his stead, representing the family, is Mr. George Potterton, a very, very eligible bachelor, 22. He is effectively the sort of the head of the family currently, as he is a banker. He has apparently been doing wonderful things with finance for his family. Has currently is not known to be connected to anyone at all, and is likely to be the possibly the catch of in terms of men. And then it's at this point you see Mr. James Bennett wandering in, following on the heels of a group of people that you would recognize as the Harwood family. Modestly wealthy family. Bennett is following. He already seems to have been sort of outcast itself from him, but attractive-looking young man. Not sure how much you might know a little bit of him. Everyone kind of knows a little bit of each other, and so you know him to be a bit of a romantic. So those are two other options you would imagine.
So I would definitely be nudging Elizabeth in the direction of Mr. Pottington. And I'm thinking that Jane will have a conversation with the Reverend, but she wants to keep an eye on Mr. Bennett.
Okay, fair enough. So at this point, everyone is here. Everyone's arrived. Different groups have started to form. Everyone, like a few stragglers, are still kind of arriving here, fashionably late, as you might expect. You see groups of folks that have already started to dance. The floor has slowly begun to fill. You hear the sounds of piano and harp and other musicians in the corner of this grandiose ballroom, very high ceilings. You can see there's a significant amount of kind of glass windows on the north side of the manor itself. I've pulled you over to the map if you want to kind of see the different how the how it actually plays out. You kind of entered in through the portico, went through the main halls into the ballroom. There are hors d'oeuvres and light drink that are being served as well. You can see like canapes and wine and can't remember what it's called, but sort of like a non-alcoholic fruit punch are the options. And kind of people are taking their opportunities to go there. There's also desserts that have already been set up. Everything looks glorious. It just looks absolutely brilliant. So I'm just going to ask you all, what would you start doing in this situation? If you're really unsure, some things that you might be doing: dancing, playing cards, though you would all know that young people playing cards at a ball is sort of looked at somewhat askance. You're a little too old for your youth, giving up the vivaciousness of dance. Conversation with people, of course. So finding time to try to find a partner, that kind of thing. So what would everyone be doing?
I think the captain wouldn't necessarily go straight to the dance floor. He's really here. He was invited, but he isn't much of a party person. But he wants to be polite. He's going to be a part of society. He's not going to become a recluse. So he would find a spot and just allow conversation to come to him. You know, like somewhere in a crowd where people. Yeah, he would post up.
He's gonna post up. Okay, yeah, okay. I'll tell you this. How about and you're letting it come find you specifically?
I've got a uniform on. I know they're gonna come to me. Okay. I don't need to search it out.
Okay. Go ahead and we'll say you can roll. You can roll etiquette. You just roll etiquette. We're gonna roll etiquette a lot, so go ahead and roll that.
Okay, so no one's gonna come to me. All right, that's fine.
We did. We do
42.
have some extra luck sitting around if it's needed.
No, someone's always going to come to you. It's just a question of whether they're a person of your stature and that's going to sort of match or benefit you, or if it's someone who you begin to converse with that others will deem as lower than your stature, and thus it might result in kind of a reputation hit.
I don't want to spend all my luck so early.
I want you to. I
needed a 30. I rolled a 42.
Okay.
Aaron did donate 1,000 bits, so
how much luck does that translate?
That goes to me. Everything comes to me. We'll treat it. So we always do boosts. I don't want to do bonus penalty die. I think that's too strong. We'll do like plus 10 to a roll, like a boost to a roll. So plus 10% and grab for now on.
All right. So I can grab a plus 10 from Aaron, and then I'll spend 2 of my luck points.
Okay.
So I just barely succeed with a 30.
Okay. So, are you here looking for love or just conversation?
Well, deep down, I'm looking for love, but you can't expect that in one night. I don't want to force anything, and let's be honest, I've seen a lot of horrors on the peninsula, and my time there was very tragic.
I'm sorry.
So
you said horrors, right? Horrors?
Yes.
Okay,
it was very traumatic for me.
Okay. Sure.
So
I thought you said something else.
Get your mind out of the gutter, Jeff.
I actually also heard what Jeff.
Thank you.
Well, it's the army, and I don't judge. Anyways.
Okay. So what'll happen is as you're kind of posted up, you'll notice like a group of, basically groups of people start forming, little cliques, little groups of people, usually among age range. Some of the older are kind of lingering, getting refreshments, but others are slowly starting to matriculate out. Some are kind of being rounded up and encouraged to come play a game of cards or something like that. At a certain point, though, you notice that a woman that you would probably, again, I think all of you are familiar with various folk here. It's a woman by the name of Miss Marianne Potterton. And she is of the Potterton family of Tollingate, older sister to George Potterton, who I've already introduced. She is very neat brown hair. She's got not a very fashionable or stylistic look to her, but nonetheless is sort of well dressed. Stranger though, despite her relative youth, she's got kind of an aged look to her, a stressful look. I'll tell you what. Go ahead and roll. Would you roll on your etiquette? You pass your etiquette, right?
Just barely passed. Yeah.
You would know that Miss Marianne Potterton has. Unfortunately, has suffered. The Potterton family lost their matriarch, their mother, many years ago, and Marianne has sort of taken up the role as mother to her younger siblings, and she is sort of at a far too young age was kind of forced into this sort of motherly look, and so she has this kind of this sort of tiredness to her as she comes up. And she says, as she walks up, Captain Stone, what a pleasure to see you this evening. And you can tell that she's somewhat forward in sort of a way that is almost kind of odd. Whatever are you doing here? I had a dreadful rumor that you were injured. Is this correct?
Hello, Miss Potterton. Yes, unfortunately, I was injured on the peninsula. I am here to convalesce, and I believe I'll regain my strength and return shortly.
Have you given thought of perhaps prolonging your stay? Perhaps this is a sign that the soldiering life is much too violent.
I have given it thought. However, His Majesty needs good soldiers, and I feel that I am up to the call.
I've the utmost confidence that you do. However, Terraford is in need of good, strong men as well, to ensure that we persevere through these harsh winters. Life continues on. Soon Napoleon, I'm sure, will be dealt with, and you'll need to find a place to call home. Have you met my sister, Miss Clara Potterton? Where is she?
No, I do not believe I've had the pleasure.
Or Susan? Miss Susan? Yes. One moment, please. And you can see she sort of scuffles off. She's like all of a sudden looking. You're not sure if you offended her or if she's genuinely leaving. Okay. What else is somebody doing as John Stone posts up for all the ladies to come knocking? What else?
So I've been invited to represent my family here at the ball. And I'm pretty much striking up conversation, looking for people that can enjoy and discuss art and poetry. And also to find inspiration.
Okay, so you're also doing conversation. All right, so two things. Let's start with an etiquette roll. And then,
Etiquette.
yeah.
Rolled a 57, which is a fail because I needed a 55.
Okay.
But I can use luck or something.
You can use luck to sort of close the distance between what you needed and what you rolled.
So it'll just be 2 points.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then the next is, so you're looking for somebody, you're kind of asking around, looking for somebody who might be keen to discuss poetry, literature, that sort of thing. Okay. Boy, that's difficult to find. I'm looking for this. Okay. You would know that there is, as you're kind of looking around, there is kind of a lot of attention or a lot of noise is being made by Miss Susan Potterton. You would recognize her. She's already on the dance floor itself. You can see she is laughing, kind of carefree spirit. She is getting a significant amount of glances from several young men in the room. And you can see that she's kind of currently going through this sort of joint dance. And you would know that she's known to be somewhat of a hopeless romantic. Somebody you're not sure if she's particularly learned in sort of literature or whatnot, but the idea of love and flowery things and arts and things like that might be something that would impress her.
Well then, I will introduce myself.
Okay. So you would know with your etiquette score that it is very, very rude to interrupt a dance that is already in progress.
I will wait until it's done.
So you wait until it's done. And you can see she steps over to the refreshments table, and she gets out a small glass, and looks like she seems to be drinking and laughing, it seems, with what looks like either friends of hers or siblings and such. And as she turns and she looks at in your direction, in your dapper attire, she takes a drink, and you can see her eyes kind of open up a little bit wide at you. And she kind of looks away, and then she looks back at you again. And you read this perhaps as an invitation. I cannot believe how much fun this is to just flirt with my friends. This is great.
I'll pretend I didn't see her and then try to make my way like in the area. So she catches me in my journal, like murmuring lines of my poetry.
Oh my God. Okay. All right. Let's make this
Wow.
I like how first you're going to neg her, but just not even paying. I'm not looking at her. I'm too cool for this. And then you're going to fake. Okay. Let's make a roll of. Let's do maybe like you're kind of faking it, right? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Okay. So go ahead and do a. What do I want you to do? Sorry, I forgot where I put my character sheets to look at what you can do. Let's make this a like a performance, maybe. Do you have a performance roll?
Jane has acting. I don't know about anybody else.
No, I don't want to do that bad. Let's just make like a charm or a persuade or something like that. Or if you wanted to just roll your poetry, that's fine too.
Yeah, I can do poetry.
Yeah, just roll your poetry.
I need a 50. Roll a 1. Is that a crit or anything?
That is very much a crit, my friend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, in the area, she'll hear me murmur to myself, just get inspiration from the ballroom.
Mm-hmm.
In the light of the chandeliers, the ladies and the lord of the land gathered together in the finest attire to dance and make merry hand in hand.
She stops. That was ever so beautiful. Did you write that, Mr. She like kind of trails off.
James Bennett.
Mr. Bennett, I have not heard such beauty in my short life.
Ah, yes, I just came up with that one.
You wrote it here on the spot?
Yes, everyone's very lovely and just made me feel that way.
Everyone is lovely. Are not some lovelier than others?
You're.
It's not Jeff. It's not Jeff. Okay? It's not Jeff. Don't just pretend it's not me.
All right.
Okay?
It makes it easier when it's
Yeah,
Jeff.
true. It's easier when
It's Miss Susan Potterton. Oh, Mr. Bennett, what seems to be the trouble?
You just caught my eye. I didn't catch your name.
Oh, I am Miss Susan Potterton. And she like looks around and just my sister there. And she kind of turns off to the side as you look across, and you can see turning around and wandering away from a man in uniform, Commander or Captain Stone, is the 20-something-year-old Marianne Potterton, who's now looking for her sister, and you're talking to her, kind of free of anybody else. You're in a room, so it's okay. Like you can converse like this as long as you don't try to wander off. It's not necessarily seen as negative. Okay. Could you write more? Perhaps I would be ever so overjoyed to hear more of your poetry.
Of course, I can share many works I've come up with. But before that, would you like to dance, baby?
Would I would be. Yes, I would. Oh, I quite love this song. And so the two of you head out into the dance floor as a new song begins. And I'm gonna need you to make a dance test.
Do I have dancing? Oh, I do.
All right, hang on. Let me make sure I do this right. Because there's a whole process for this. Okay, so basically, if you choose to dance, you got your partner. You already got that. So roll a dance. Everyone gets a bonus die for dances because the dancing here is relatively simple. So there's nothing really complex. So you get a bonus die, which means you roll an extra d10. So it's your.
What do you mean extra d10?
It's an extra 10s die. So basically, you roll a d100.
Oh, like a bandage sort of.
Yeah. Okay.
Just find one. Okay, I rolled 27 under 30.
27 under 30. Okay, excellent. So the dance continues. Perhaps as you're dancing and occasionally, like, because it's not like you're holding each other. It's more of like this organized sort of do-si-doing occasionally, like like kind of mixture. But when you kind of come together, maybe you're like whispering lines of like the poem as you're coming and going, and you just hear as this happens. Yeah, things are going well. That crit really helps you. We'll cut then to somebody else. What is everybody else doing? What is Georgiana and Emma and Jane? What are the three of you doing?
If you'll let me, Georgiana.
What? I'm scared.
So I will. Emma is watching all of this and sees Miss Potterton walk away from Captain Stone. And he's like, "Oh, he's alone," and is sort of marches Georgiana without asking.
I told you they'd come to me.
It's kind of muttering to like, "Georgie, we need to find a man who's not so scared of you being so smart, and military men are really strong. So you should talk to him because maybe this is the season you'll finally get a proposal." And then I can, I don't know, talk to one of the eligible bachelors here. But first, let's introduce you to, and at this point, I assume we've got to Captain Stone. Like,
as Georgiana's like, "No, I really wanted a refreshment. We've been in the carriage for quite a long time. And I did bring my book with me, and I left off on chapter 32, and I was nearly finished." And that's what Captain John Stone hears as we approach. Like,
Pardon, I did not mean to overhear. What book were you reading?
oh, just the most recent discoveries about the treaty de poisons published by Matthew Ophelia.
I'm so sorry. We are the Wentworth sisters. I am Emma Wentworth. This is my sister Georgiana Wentworth. And you are
Captain
sir?
John Stone. It is a
Captain
pleasure,
Stone.
of course.
I must excuse myself. I'm so parched from the journey. Please allow me to leave you in the very charming company of my sister.
Georgiana's not going to let go. What
And
do I need to roll?
I'm trying very hard to bounce.
let's do a contested roll then. If you're actively clinging Georgiana, why don't we do a contested roll and see if you do it? So I'll say we could do just straight like dex versus strength. So Emma, you can do like a dex roll to see if you can just like, and then Georgiana, as you're trying to cling, just like roll a strength test.
Okay.
We'll see who does better.
I got a 5 and I needed a 40.
Oh dear.
I got a 62 under a 70.
Okay, so 540 is actually a hard success, and so because it's a hard success, Georgiana actually succeeds in this. So as you go to pull away, Emma, you just feel your sister like dead weight clinging to you, and you realize if you take an extra step, the two of you are just going to tumble here on the ground, and it's going to look dreadful. So probably stop for a moment.
I'm shooting daggers at her.
Actually, Captain Stone, my sister, she has quite the skill with weapons, specifically of the shooting kind. Perhaps you could both discuss guns. And she's terribly awkward, so like this fits 100%.
Not my usual dinner conversation, I would admit. Ladies, if you're both thirsty, I would be happy to go find you drinks.
We could accompany you to the refreshment table. Would you mind?
Not at all, of course.
And then Georgiana will unwillingly let go of her sister so she can go on the other side. So we both take one of Captain Stone's arms as he escorts us to the refreshment table.
Oh my. Okay. So isn't that a look? Yeah, and you hear some chittering here and there as you walk past, like in a relatively like disapproving manner, as John has now women on both arms as he's wandering through.
I'm just giving looks like I didn't choose this.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like there might be some reputation loss coming here.
There is certainly more than one mature woman and man in the room. You know, fathers, chaperones, mothers, older sisters that are kind of staring over at Johnstone, and then at the Wentworth sisters. Yeah, I would say all of you.
If that wasn't the proper way to do it, that's an Ashley mistake.
Oh no, it's fine. I mean, all of you can go ahead and take 2 reputation loss for this kind of this display as the 3 of you kind of march across. We'll kick over to Jane. What has Jane been doing this whole time?
So Jane's best thing is charm, and so she is finding a group to kind of bring Elizabeth with her and just chat them up. So ideally, this would be somewhere where George happens to be, because we are all clearly making connections with the Potterton.
Yeah, it's just because of what you all asked for, and so that's what I showed you. So if you're looking specifically for the Pottertons, you're looking for George. Okay.
So I'm basically trying to be like Emma for Elizabeth.
Okay, roll a charm test.
All right. This is got a 65 in charm. This is the best thing that Jane can do. And that is a 22.
Okay.
Is that a crit?
22. No, crit doubles aren't crits in Call of Cthulhu.
Okay,
That's a Delta Green thing.
Okay.
What's it under?
65.
Okay, so then that is a hard success, however. Okay, just so I think on your character sheets it actually shows the
oh
yeah,
yep, that's right.
So if that's the case, and you should say that because sometimes that might actually benefit you all. So you do in fact find Mr. George Potterton, who seems to be having a bit of a conversation, apparently, with what looks like. Again, you're not as familiar with I would say probably with everybody as because it's like you haven't been here that long, but maybe on your walk over, Elizabeth might let you know that Mr. George Potterton is currently in conversation apparently with a Mr. Nathaniel Havering, older man, kind of fairly large, has a reputation for being a little rough around the edges, like in terms of society. He's relatively new to gentry life, actually. His family has been known to be relatively wealthy, but he's a tradesman who has recently, in the last few years, due to marriage, kind of ascended into sort of gentryhood. And the two of them, as you approach, you can hear that they're sort of having a conversation. Well, actually, it's more of Mr. Havering is doing much of the talking, and he's talking quite adamantly about various projects he's had, and how bored and idle he has become in country life, and he continually begs Mr. Potterton to tell him about his time in the city, but every time George Potterton tries to go off on a small tale, the older man just starts laughing really loud and kind of derails the story. And that's when the two of you approach.
And so she's just going to come in and she's just joining in that sort of fake laughter. The tales are just so wonderful.
Oh, thank you, my dear. When you get to be my age, you have a significant amount of tales to tell. Well, I could tell you about my grandfather. Let me tell you, when he was but a young man, he went merchant marine. You see, he traveled the world from here.
Oh, he traveled the world. Oh, you'll just have to tell me all the places that he went.
In fact, he journeyed to India, of course.
Do that though, Mr.
Far
Potterton,
East.
Just wanted to have a quick chat here with Miss Elizabeth. Well, And she's sort of pushing Elizabeth towards kind of George, and then she's going to kind of go back to like, oh yes, traveling the world, yes.
And so you're going to try to like veer him off, like
Yeah.
you're going to wingman it up right now.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
nice. That's very nice. Okay. So you rolled your charm, you passed. That'll do. And so with that, so you get caught up in this lengthy conversation where, without any kind of abashed nature, he just goes on, and he overshares. Like, this man just overshares about this and that, and like. Halfway through the conversation about his grandfather, he starts talking about his uncle. Then he starts talking about this project that he's been working on in his house, and how he's considering rebuilding this and remodeling that, and he just finds it so boring. How these people? Oh, I'm sorry. These people look at me. If my wife were here and overheard me, now you won't go saying I said that to my wife, now will you,
No,
Miss
no,
Radcliffe?
of course not.
Of course, thank you very much. She would be most upset with my behavior, but I must say, this is the most enjoyment we've had in weeks. It has been a very dreadfully idle and boring affair. Oh, goodness.
And which I'm new in the area. Which one is your wife?
Which one? Oh, Mrs. Susanna. I believe she is in the parlor playing cards with Miss Coombs. Yes. Yes, you're much too young for those old lady. For those women.
I certainly will not tell your wife that you just called her old. My goodness.
Okay, his face gets kind of red at that point. Oh yes, most certainly not. Yes, indeed.
No, but tell me more about these projects that you have going on. They just seem fascinating.
And he tells you for minutes and minutes on end, and they are not fascinating. They are extraordinarily dull and mundane, and they involve redecorating his house, like building kind of what amounts to like an extra set of sawhorses for construction. Like his wife doesn't want him to do it. But he's a tradesman at heart. I'm used to doing work. Work fills the soul, and it's a very dull conversation. But he's an interesting man on some respects. Certainly different than everyone else here.
Sure. And so she's looking for any of any information. It might be, are they looking to redecorate with some art? Are they doing away with some other things that they had before? So she's looking for some bit of information that she might be able to,
Okay. Yeah.
take to her benefit.
He will. You passed your charm, and he will mention how the Miss Susanna. Don't tell her this. She purchased a collection of very what she calls delightful and artistic paintings of some renowned painter who's passed. Of course, the value is significant, she says. As far as I'm concerned, it's about as dull to look at the paint as it is to look out the window sometimes, but it makes her happy, and a happy wife means a happy life.
Well, I would imagine once you complete these renovations, you must have an opening. You must have us over to see the beauty and
Yes.
art and everything.
Well, I don't mean to toot my own horn, of course, but our dinners all renowned. Ask anyone here. Good company, excellent conversation. No young little rugrats moving about here and there. Yes. We'll invite you, of course, Miss Radcliffe. Of course, we would be honoured after the winter. Once spring breaks, of course, getting
Absolutely.
cold by the day.
It certainly is, and I look forward to seeing the results of all of the hard work that you are
Of course.
putting into your home.
Yes.
And she takes a peek back to see how Elizabeth and
You don't
George-
see them. They at some point they wandered off. You look around. You don't see it. Roll a spot hidden test.
I'm pretty good at spot hidden. I've got aiming for a 50. That's a 94.
Yeah, you look around and you don't see. You look over towards the dance floor. You see that all the attention seems to be being paid to a young Mr. James Bennett in a which one were you with again? I'm trying to remember. There's so many Pottertons. In the beautiful young Miss Susan Potterton, very young. I'm not going to tell you their ages because I feel like that might creep some of you out sometimes. But just remember, Jane Austen time. Just remember.
Sure.
So
Sure.
Jane, it's just case in point. Jane's dancing with a 17-year-old, but it's okay. She's out. She's of eligible age. Okay.
Understood. She's out in society.
Okay.
And so I
yeah.
might use that to kind of end that
Oh,
conversation.
yes, of course. I suppose it's time for this old man to retire to the parlor where all the old folk go and let the young people enjoy the lavishness of the ball. Thank you for the conversation, Miss
And
Radcliffe.
she'll just sort of wink and say, look forward to the invitation.
And he kind of gets a little taken aback by the wink, and he's he looks a little flummoxed, and then he solders off. Okay. Meanwhile, while this has all been going, Bennett's been dancing. Stone, Captain Stone, and the Wentworth sisters have stumbled over to the and gotten kind of some refreshments. Let's touch back with Captain Stone and the Wentworth sisters. So you come over, you get your drinks. Are you getting wine? Are you getting the fruit cordial? I think it's called cordial. Are you getting anything to eat? What are you doing over here at this refreshments area?
I would ask for something other than wine first.
If a servant is around, they will kind of look at you with a bit of concern on their face. I am sorry. That's not right. What was I going to do? I was trying to do like an Irish, like, I'm sorry, Captain Stone, but these are our only choices. If you retire into the parlor, I believe some of the men have brandy.
Wine it is for now, then.
Of course. So you pour yourself, or you don't pour yourself. You just grab like a kind of a. So what are the three of you doing?
Georgiana gets a non-alcoholic drink and some sort of cute dessert.
Okay. Yeah, and you can see the desserts are very colorful, very like there's small pastries, things like that. Okay. Anything for Emma?
Emma's having a glass of wine.
Okay.
and giving Georgie meaningful looks to talk to Captain Stone.
Which she's already panicking because she's like, oh, I did a big faux pas. And so she's gonna look. Is there like seating around like the sides or no?
There are some seats here and there scattered about on the edges of the ballroom. Yes. Also, there are like the whole place is open. Like you can wander wherever you like. There are the parlors themselves, the library, the hall. You would know that although the whole house is open, it's a major faux pas to kind of like wander upstairs. But
Jeff, I'm so sorry. I need to interrupt real quick. I know this look on Georgiana's face where she's looking for a seat and to get away from us. So Emma says to Captain Stone, do you know it's been so long since my sister had the opportunity to dance with somebody so handsome and a military man nonetheless? Perhaps you would indulge us in a dance. Georgie, what do you say?
Well, as you may know, I just returned from the war in the peninsula, and I was injured there, hence my return here. I'm convalescing. I'm not sure I should be dancing.
Oh, Georgie dances very gentle.
And you hear a man kind of clear his throat who is just reaching for a wine right next to you, Stone. He's like, oh, Captain Stone. Oh, and you look at him. This is Dr. Winston Parsons. He is the doctor of Terrierford who has likely been the one who's been monitoring your recuperation. He's like, oh, nonsense, Captain Stone. Actually, some
some movement, stretching, keeping the body will be faster for your recuperation. Doctor's orders
Doctor,
now.
I thought we were
Doctor's
just the other
orders,
day
and you're
we-
a soldier, and soldiers follow orders now, do they not?
And you could tell he's a little drunk.
Yes, sir.
And like
Georgiana, may I have this dance?
I got you.
Thank you.
It would be my pleasure. As she hands Emma both her drink and her pastry she didn't even get to eat yet.
I set down my drink.
Save
Excellent.
this for you.
Okay, so the two of you awkwardly wander out onto the
Mhm.
dance floor
It is definitely
Where-
awkward.
where James Bennett and Susan Potterin are just they are captain of the football team, like the classic, like everyone's just sort of moving and looking at them as they're moving around, like, what a darling couple they make. Oh, how delightful. And then the two of you come on, where you've got the limping Captain Stone, we've got the awkward Georgiana.
Yep.
I have a 5% in dance.
I would like to roll a dance test, please, now. Yes, indeed. Oh, God. I love
Georgiana,
this.
how old are you?
20.
Okay, I'm 29. There's a bit of an age gap, but it's not too bad.
That's pretty legit, actually, for some of the combos I've seen.
Yeah.
What do they say? Like half plus 7? So I don't know if it
Your
quite
age
meets that
divided
for
by
modern
2
day.
plus 7.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're still a bit young for me, but it's okay.
I needed a 30 and I got a 9.
Wait a second. Half of 29 is 14. Plus 7 is 21. 21, she could be an early 18, 14. She could be
Yeah.
a January baby. She's Aquarius.
I rounded up to 22, but 21's fine.
All right, fair enough. Okay, how do y'all do with your dancing?
I passed.
Okay.
With a half success because I got a 9 and I needed a 30.
Okay. How did you do? So a hard success. You needed a 30, so 9 under 15. Beautiful.
Yeah.
John, how do you do?
Yeah, I needed a 5, and I got an 84.
Okay.
I don't have enough luck to make that a success, so we'll just leave it.
So the other thing you can do, and we don't really talk about this too often, but you can push the roll. So Call of Cthulhu allows you to push the roll. However, if you push, it's not so much like you're redoing it. It's not like don't think of it like a re-roll, but it's like you're putting greater effort into it in some way, and you're kind of altering your approach in some way. This would be a wonderful time to do it, if you would like.
Pushing the roll is just a re-roll?
Yeah, you basically roll it again, but there is increased consequence if you were to fail.
Oh no.
In this case,
I
it's
don't think
reputation. It's just
All
reputation.
of your remaining
I
reputation.
don't think I could get the 5 on a second or even a third re-roll, so I probably won't push this.
But you can get a lower roll that you could potentially spend luck on.
Yeah, we've got 9 left from.
I warned her I'm injured. She's going to have to suffer with the bruised toes.
I really want him to push this and fail.
I know,
So I want
right?
something to happen. Come on,
For the
Steven.
stream.
I mean, I already failed.
But a fail, okay. A fail's, So the two of you are out. Georgiana, you're actually quite competent. You don't necessarily have the attention and grace that Miss Susanna is getting right now, but you can tell perhaps a bit of the anxiety starts to build up as you can tell that there are eyes on you and people are kind of admiring some of like your dance moves. But you can tell Captain Stone, you're not sure. I mean, the politeness perhaps is maybe it's his injury that is causing this problem, but having paired with him, you can tell that is most certainly not the case. It's the decided lack of rhythm and dexterity and agility as he kind of fumbles here and there. His sword kind of gets caught between his like in his trousers, and he kind of nearly gets it caught on your gown, and it's all that can all the luck in the world prevented the saber, like the scabbard of the like tearing the hem of your dress, but thankfully it didn't happen. But it was an extraordinarily uncomfortable dance despite the relative simplicity of the dance.
Apologies. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I've been at war on the peninsula, and I am out of practice. I have not danced in some time.
No apologies needed. Thank
And
you
like
for
I
your
said,
time.
I took an injury. It's not something I wish to speak about, but I am still recovering.
Oh, I understand. And Georgiana just like politely excuses herself from him after the dance. And she goes to like far away from her sister to the other side of the
We
dance
both
floor.
breathe a sigh of relief.
Okay.
Yeah, we're both like, thank you for this, but no thank you. And we part.
So, what was Emma doing while this all happens, or what do you do once you see Georgiana try to run away?
Seeing that she's now on her own, I guess I think the polite thing to do is to look for Elizabeth and thank her for the invitation.
Okay.
So Elizabeth and her friend Jane, who I don't know if Emma knows yet.
Okay. So, if you're specifically looking for Miss Elizabeth, not necessarily her parents, Lord and Lady
No.
Northlake. Okay. So then go ahead and you can roll spot hidden.
Sweet. Spot hidden. I don't have anything in it, but it says 25% extra it, so I'm rolling under 25.
Yeah. Get a roll under 25, and you can always spend luck if you
Sweet.
can.
So 63, and I am not going to spend luck.
So you look around, you're trying to find any sight of Miss Elizabeth. You do not see her anywhere in the ballroom. She does not appear to be like circling around, waiting for people to come ask her to dance. She doesn't appear to be in any specific social kind of clique. She doesn't appear to be on the dance floor either. You do see Miss Radcliffe, which is rumored to be Miss Elizabeth's sort of best friend, kind of in a woman who's been staying with the Northlakes for some time now. But you don't see Miss Elizabeth.
I'll go up to Miss Radcliffe.
Well, hello, Miss.
Miss Radcliffe, I was looking for Miss Northlake just to thank her for the invitation for the wonderful soiree.
Well, that is fascinating, actually, because I was doing the same. I believe she was having a conversation with the young Mr. Potterton, George.
Oh,
And
George
I,
Potterton.
finished up the conversation that I was having, and next thing I knew, they had and then she sort of lowers her voice a little bit, because that would probably be an appropriate thing to sort of speculate about, but I haven't seen her the last few moments. But have you made it to the refreshments and desserts tables yet?
You know, I haven't spent as much time there as I would like. Would you join me?
Perhaps, Miss Elizabeth does have a sweet tooth. Perhaps that might be where she and Mr. Potterton are having their conversation.
Well, if she's talking to Mr. Potterton, I would hope that it's in private. And gives her a salacious wink.
At that, Jane, you would know, having lived here for a little bit, that there are gardens in the back of the house. They are lit, but if ever there was a place for two young lovers for two young potential lovers to find a scandalous time to be apart from society, that would be a very good place for it.
After we grab our drinks, if it would be okay with you, I mean, we could stay indoors, but it's a crisp but lovely evening outside, and if you haven't seen the gardens here, they are a sight to behold.
That is a delightful idea. And Emma will take Jane's arm in hers with all the overfamiliarity in the world and walk to the refresher table.
And Jane is great with acting and charm and fast talk and all of the things, so this
Amazing.
is going swimmingly for her.
Okay. So you're staying inside, you're lingering around the table.
Well, I think we're getting drinks
Okay.
or food or whatever,
go
and then
to
going
the
to the
gardens.
garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you get drinks near the sort of the front side of the ballroom, wander out, take the hall past the main parlor and the library, and out you go towards a very beautiful, ornate series of hedgerows. It's essentially kind of like a maze in some respects, not particularly difficult to follow. And you can see much of the bushes here and the hedgerows are still intact, still lush, well manicured. You can see little bits of frost and stuff that have kind of dropped on some of the leaves. It is fully dark out here now. The sun has gone down completely. You've probably been at the party now for well over an hour, maybe into 2. And you can see that there are torches that have been set up here and there. Conversations are having. You can smell the distinct aroma of smoke, and you see a group of men, like these gentlemen with these heavy coats off to the side, kind of smoking pipes and things here and there, talking about whatever. And you two start looking around for Miss Elizabeth. Okay.
While we're doing that, can I just have a quick chat with Jane? Just a quick comment. So as we're walking out to the garden, say like, have you had a chance to speak with Captain Stone?
I have not yet.
The dour thing, isn't he? I don't know if it's time on the peninsula or perhaps time in the military, but...
Well, you see, I think that, people like you and me, we enjoy and we thrive in these, there are people to talk to and just look at all of the beauty and the jewelry and there's just so much for us to look at. And I just don't know that he believes that those things are as interesting as we do.
That is wonderfully insightful. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I continue on at the gardens.
Sometimes I find maybe seeing what is of interest to him might go far, because he did not seem to be as interested in all of the rest of the social goings on here.
Do you know, that's why I thought he might enjoy conversing with my sister. She always has her nose in books. Perpetually.
Well, perhaps they can find their way to the library. There is quite a collection that the Mr. and Mrs. have amassed over the years, and perhaps they could go together and pick out the ones that they like.
That's a wonderful idea.
I do know what it's like to try to have someone that you're trying to connect with someone else, and it doesn't always work out the way we want it to. But I do love your dress. It is quite beautiful.
Thank you. Although you sound like you have a story of quite a heartbreak. And I think we can continue chatting like old gal pals.
Yeah, the conversation continues as you start to wander around the hedge maze. Okay. We're going to cut back to the Lovebirds, James Bennett and Susan Potterton, as you've been dancing a few songs now, which is... well, actually, no, I should ask you this. Would you continue to dance with her through multiple songs? She seems interested.
After one, I will tell her, it's been a lovely dance, and you've inspired me.
I've inspired you. Oh, you're going to write about me?
Yes, you could find me in the library. You can accompany if you'd like.
Oh, my sister Marianne would not want me to be alone with you. That is very untoward. I shall find her, and we shall join you there, perhaps.
Understandable.
Yes.
But I do not see you in the evening later. Have a nice time.
Will you call upon me, perhaps?
I shall.
I shall look forward to it, Mr. Bennett.
And she kind of just sort of turns, and she scampers off at that point, and you can hear her kind of giggling as she does. All right, you want to go to the library?
Yeah.
Okay. So you wander out, and again, just exploring the grounds is totally fine. And you can tell that there's really no one. Like the doors are open, people are allowed to explore, go ahead in there. You can hear the sounds of people laughing, and you can, kind of from what looks like the like that parlor as you pass by, cards kind of going, being played by folks of a slightly more advanced age. You would be the youngest in that room by far, were you to go in. But you recognize a few. You recognize what looks like the Lord Northlake, James Northlake, the host here. He seems to be kind of mingling. You see Miss, I think it's Miss Sarah Coombs, who is sort of kind of like the matriarch of the family. This is like the oldest one in the family, and she's there, and you can kind of hear her cackle. But as you look around, as you come into the library, you have a moment to yourself. You see that there are kind of just rows of wonderfully leather-bound books seating here. Go ahead and roll, I would say, just to be a spot hidden as you kind of look around. Give me time to find a page for this.
43 under 45.
Okay, so as you're looking around, there is a variety of different... when you're looking for books, you don't really notice anything in terms of poetry. Most of it is historical, legal, less sort of nothing really fictional, nothing really creative. There are two things in the room that sort of stand out. There looks to be this very ornate looking Bible on top of a mahogany writing desk within the room, and you see there's a bijouterie table. It's one of those glass top display tables, and you can see within it there is this very beautiful, very curious looking brooch. Probably would be the best way to describe it. You can see that also within the room, in addition to all of the books, there's all these different fossils and geodes and like other ephemera being displayed here and there. A man of considerable wealth and intelligence and such, you would imagine. But those two things are kind of like this wonderfully ornate book, which you would think, and this is something that you would know, your person would know, likely their family Bible, the Northlake family Bible. And then they seem to be quite proud of whatever this brooch is in the display table.
I'll go up to it and see if there's any story to it.
Yeah, if you look more at the jewel, go ahead. You can roll either an appraise check, or you can roll a hard no test, which would be an intelligence test, but you would need a hard success to be able to get anything. So it's
okay. I'll go with the hard int.
Okay, go ahead and roll.
So we have 35. I got 29.
Okay. So you can see it's basically these two concentric rings that are held together. You're not sure. It looks like whatever's holding them together is likely on the underside, so you can't see it while it's within the case. It's definitely gold studded with all these different gemstones, but there is one single gem that sits in the center, like the centerpiece of it. It's kind of a peculiar look to it. It certainly doesn't match like the modern style. And as you're staring there, studying it, probably at some point when during your studies at university, maybe you've done some research into gem work or jewelry or other arts and things like that. But you can tell the stones are they're oval and square cabochons of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. And this likely predates like the popularization of like facet cutting that has been around for like the last 200 or so years. Like this is very old. Like this is probably at least 300, 400. And as you're starting to think about it, you can see there's like a label on the cushion underneath it. You can almost see it, and it says, you think it says 12th to 13th century, and there's more of a message there, but you can't see it from outside. But this thing is at least 500 to 600 years old.
I'll sort of just exclaim in the library, wow, what a marvelous brooch. How did someone come upon this?
Now, you do notice that the display table is not locked. So you could, if you wanted to risk it, open it up and inspect it further. And if you do this quickly enough without anyone seeing, there won't be any sort of damage to your reputation.
Oh. Yes, my curiosity is piqued.
Okay. So you quickly open up the case, reach in, you sort of turn it over. You can tell that, like, inscribed on the back side. So there is this, there's like this cross on the back where like the rings are kind of connected. And you also notice that there's like this handwritten label that's resting on the cushion below the brooch. It's the Northlake jewel, circa 12th to 13th century. And inscribed on the back, it says, Osbert Nordlack made me as I made him. You would be able to, I'll roll it over. Do you have French or anything, by the way?
I have English.
Okay, you don't have language French. You did pass your int test. You would know that Nordlack is like a earlier version of the Northlake family name. So likely this was made by an ancestor, a distant ancestor of the current Northlake family. If you would like, you can roll another test, either history or another no test, if you want to learn further.
I will do no again.
Okay.
76 is a fail this time.
Okay. Do you want to spend any luck to make it a success?
No, it's too much. Because I need the hard one, right?
Yes, you do.
Yeah, it's way too much.
You don't forget, you will get more luck back at the end of the next session.
How much is more?
I have to look it up. I think it's like 2d10 or something. We're doing pulp rules for luck so that you guys can go nuts with it. But I'll have to look it up later. But possibly around like you'll probably get between like 10 and 25.
What are the consequences of luck? Is there any?
No. I might ask you to roll a luck test at some point, which is just,
There's that.
There's that. And I'll just keep it as a fail this time.
Okay. So you're not quite sure. Like there's something kind of nagging at the back of your mind. Like that inscription sounds familiar, the cadence of it and everything, but you can't quite place exactly what it means. But effectively, you know that this was made by an ancestor of the Northlakes who was particularly, the gems are beautiful, and the sort of gem cutting technique is far predates modern style. Okay.
All right.
Now, could you do me a favor and roll a luck test to see if you did all this without being seen?
Call back.
69 under 73.
Nice. That's like the best result. Okay. You hear the sounds of footsteps coming, and you quickly put that back in and kind of go back to looking up as stepping into the room. You see a handful of other folks. You see what looks like an older man that you would recognize actually as a reverend. You see two folks. You see the Reverend Byron Choke, nearing 50. Known to be a fairly insufferable bore, and his parish or his church in Terraford has been slowly losing people to Reverend Samuel Jennings' church. And you see that he is in a fast and fascinating conversation about religion with another man, very plain-looking man, and you would probably peg him in his maybe his early 40s, by the name of Mr. Richard Asher. And the two of them are talking at enormous depth and length about religion, about Bible, about moralistic tendencies. You can hear a sense of judgment on some of the behavior that is apparently being displayed by some of the youth out in the ballroom. They're saying the Northlakes are just they are just giving them a platform with which to sow their wild very sorry, we did not realize anyone was in here. And they kind of reach out and they start kind of trying to draw you into the conversation.
I'll politely introduce, but dismiss myself as religion isn't really interesting.
And you see them kind of do a bit of a guffaw at the at you saying that.
Never.
And then you hear the younger man, the Mr. Asher, you hear him say,
I will make sure, Mr. Bennett, that you stay well clear of my daughters. I will not have such a man of your sight and stature dismisses God so easily, coming anywhere near my daughters. Were we not in the Northlake home right now, I'd have much sterner words for you, sir.
Could you point them out so I can avoid them?
yeah, of course. Actually, right over there. Go ahead and take.
I could see Lug had it, and he wasn't sure if he was going to say it or not.
Take 4 points of reputation loss, and then you depart. Okay. So we've got Bennett, who just left the library. We've got Wentworth and Radcliffe, the two, or I should say Emma and Jane, off in the outside. Georgiana and John, what did you two do after your dance?
I think we went to like opposite sides of the ballroom.
Yes. A good captain knows when the battle is lost and when to retreat. So I would be going to look for brandy and cards.
And you find it as you wander into what looks like the parlor. If you look at the map, the main parlor there off to the side, you can see there is a group of people. Looks like there's sort of 2 games that are happening. One seems to be it's split across gender lines here. As you see, the men are playing one game in the sort of the far corner of the parlor. You can smell the smoke and you can see the glasses, the clinkling. You see the Lord Lord Northlake. James is his first name. He is kind of at the table along with a few others. You can see there's a group of women and 1 or 2 younger boys, not so much men, probably 14 or so, that are at the table. You recognize a few faces as well, and there's essentially 2 different games going on. It's a question of whether you want to gamble or not.
I'm a soldier. I'll gamble.
Okay.
I would walk up to the table with the men. Gentlemen, I'm afraid I was cursed with 2 left feet. I find myself more suited to a battlefield than a ballroom. Perhaps I could join you?
And you see, looking up at you, is the Reverend Samuel Jennings, who I've mentioned before, this sort of sad, morose man. You see what looks like, what's his name? Mr. Nathaniel Havering, who we've already been introduced to, has sat down as well. You also see the Lord and host for this evening, Sir James Northlake, as well. And Mr. Northlake says,
Of course, Mr. Stone. Please, I beg your pardon, Captain Stone. All the fine work you and your boys are doing, the least I could do. Have a seat, sir.
You have my thanks. And I'll take a seat and pull out some money.
Okay. So let's see. I have a couple different games that they're playing.
Are you familiar with the game Commerce?
Of course.
Well,
So basically, this is it's there's a couple
Jeff, I
different.
said I'm familiar.
how dare you interrupt me? Kill him.
So they're playing Commerce, and so it's basically the goal is to have the best 3-card combo in hand, and you're essentially swapping cards out between your hand in like this collective pool on the table called a widow, and you keep swapping until someone is satisfied with their hand, and they knock on the table, and once 2 people do that, play stops, and then like you kind of compare best of 3 cards. We don't have.
I could have told you that if you wanted.
I don't believe you. I don't believe you knew this. So. Okay, so as you sit down, go ahead and make a gaming. You kind of get some money out. You kind of do you bet some fish. You go ahead and make your gaming roll.
Yeah, so I said I'm a soldier that likes to gamble. I never said I was good at gambling.
Do you have any gambling?
I need a 10%. Gaming,
So no,
10%.
no gaming.
So that was a 72.
What exactly are you good at?
I can shoot people and I can stab people.
You're at a ball, man. What's wrong with you?
I also have excellent credit.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, but He's good at war. That's fair. Apparently, he's not very good at war because he got kicked out. He got
Got injured.
I got hit. I
got hit. He didn't know when to duck. All right. So how'd you do?
Yeah, I got a 72. That's a fail.
Okay. So do you want to push or not? Do you want to push or do you want to spend luck or anything?
No, I'm not pushing. I'm here to lose money.
Okay. So I'm just checking to see if you lose any reputation for this. No, you're good. It's only for
They would like me more.
So the reason I want you all to push a lot is because failed push rolls is where you get the reputation loss if something bad happens or a fumble, and so just fails is usually you just lose money.
I would push if I had more than a 10% chance.
Okay. Overall, it's a pleasant series of hands that you have. But with these men, they offer you brandy, they offer you cigars, tobacco, smoking away, and the conversation, like they're definitely older than you, with the exception of the Reverend, who is in your age range. He's 39, so he's a little bit older than you, but the other two men are considerably your senior. But the whole time they're kind of pestering you for questions like updates. What insights do you have?
Well, how long before you think our boys take care of old Napoleon? I've heard many a thing. I'm surprised it's lasted this long, in fact.
I'll give them the same spiel that I give everyone, just that our soldiers are the best in the world. They are always fighting for king and country. Our spirits can't be broken. Napoleon will be defeated, I'm sure, in the next month.
Roll a persuade test.
Okay, I'm actually good at persuade.
Oh, there you go.
So that's one of the good things. One of the things I'm good at. 4, and I needed a 50.
Okay, that is an extreme success.
They go, "Hear, hear, sir. Hear, hear. Well said, Captain. Wonderful indeed. Oh, I really should introduce you to my daughter, Miss Elizabeth. She would be... she's very... she's a flighty young woman, but a soldiery man. I think she would be most interested."
So this is like the Lord, the Sir James himself.
By the way, I'm afraid
and he puts his hand down. He's like, I win again. And he just pulls the fish towards him. And like, you lose once more.
Luck seems to be running against you, my friend. First, you are injured. Second, I am taking all of your money. But we'll find my daughter, and I'll be glad to introduce you. She was a wonderful young lady. The apple of our eye. She's the sweetest possible thing you could immensely imagine. I would very much like to meet her.
As a soldier, I must say I don't believe in luck. And while I may be losing every hand, I'm afraid it's a bit of a learned skill. A good leader will never take money off his men. So I enjoy playing the camaraderie. I enjoy being here, but I am used to losing, I must admit.
Oh, how very, very wise and very reasonable. It is just a game after all. I'm sure with that sort of wisdom and level-headedness. Yes. We shall call upon us after the ball. I'm sure my good wife and my daughter would be very happy to host a man such as yourself, regale us with your tales of travel and heroism. Yes, indeed.
Oh, please, you're too nice. You're too nice.
Oh, sir. You're a soldier. You are fighting for king and country. It is the least I can do. Hospitality takes very little effort, after all.
I would be greatly pleased.
So, at this point, Georgiana, you're in the ballroom still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you been doing anything in particular before I throw some stuff out here?
If anything, she's been with the Babington sisters and like hanging around waiting for a dance.
Okay. You are in fact trying to get you want to dance? Okay.
Yeah.
Roll I'll tell you this. So
She's out with the ladies on the dance floor.
in the book, there's a lot.
I'm in my 20s, and this is my last.
Usually, young ladies wait for men to come at, but there's things that young ladies could do to perhaps entice young gentlemen to come ask them to dance. So,
oh God, okay.
Well, I'm asking you, what would Georgiana be doing to perhaps entice a young man?
Oh God.
I'm imagining
Considering
like
I've never had to,
intense
like,
eye contact.
in my life. She has a fan in her inventory of stuff. So maybe she's got her fan out and she's like looking coyly at someone.
Okay. You're doing this next to the to the Babingtons, who are going on and on about various people here and there, and like they mentioned George that ran off at some point with Miss Elizabeth, and like you hear them arguing apparently, but they're not arguing like they're sort of dismissing like all of these boys here, they're so everly dull, pasty. Just look at their faces, and they start talking about if I had my way, I would have Mr. Martin Johnson, and like that's scandalous. He's a tradesman. You can't possibly. Don't you? Mother would faint. Oh, well, he might be a tradesman, but he is the most attractive man in all of Terraford. And so they just kind of like gossiping a bit about hot guys in Terraford. And the other one's like, well, I prefer his younger brother, Benjamin. Well, he's attractive too, but he has no personality to go with, no vivacity. And so they're going back and forth, and you're meanwhile like by them just sort of doing your little charm brigade here. So roll a charm test to see if you can lure someone in. I need 2 tests. I need a charm test and an etiquette test.
Okay.
Such pasty poets. So etiquette is for making sure you're targeting somebody within your social tier.
Okay.
And
Etiquette.
and then charm is to see if you're successful at targeting them.
Etiquette's great. I needed a 45. I got a 16.
Okay, so good. Man, that's another hard success.
I don't have anything in charm, but I have a flat 15. And I got a 7.
Okay, so you hang on, just going through my names here, see who I got. Who can I throw at you? Let's see. Okay, you get well, he's not there. Okay. This is his real name.
You laugh. Oh no.
I'm laughing at his name. You'll know in a second. His name is Ashton Lushington.
Oh. Okay.
He has a very slender frame, high collar. His hair is done a remarkable style, in fact. He's very stylish indeed. And you see him as he completes a dance with another young lady. Looks like one of the Pottertons, possibly. Who knows? There's so many Pottertons just all around everywhere. And he pauses to get a drink. You see a wine, and he kind of looks to be scanning the crowd a bit, kind of nodding here and there to people as they pass. And then he looks over at you, and he sees your glasses. He sees, are you chewing on them or anything? So she's...
No, she's got the fan.
The fan. Okay, that's what it
up.
is.
Yep.
And he looks at you, and you can see him. It's suddenly his face, which was respectful, suddenly lights up. He sets his glass down, and he comes over to you, and he says, "Miss Georgiana Wentworth, is it?"
Yes, pleasure's mine.
Would you care to dance? And he kind of holds out his hand. He does this very kind of like flowery kind of bow as he does so.
And she accepts his dance.
And you can feel his hand. His hand is somewhat moist. You can tell there's... Gross. Yeah, somewhat moist as he's been sweating a little bit, you can tell. But his dancing has been pretty spectacular. Second only to James Bennett, who has left the floor. He has left everyone wanting more. And you wander out onto the floor, and the two of you begin dancing. Roll a dance test.
I got an 8 and I need a 30.
Okay, so the two of you are dancing, and he says, "I could not help but notice that you had a book with you," and you're doing this conversation in passing as you're like across the ballroom, and you come to, "Are you an avid reader?"
Oh, I love learning.
Oh, I quite like a woman with an active mind, indeed. And he kind of steps away, and he comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah. As this conversation is happening, all of the women around here are so concerned with their gowns and their ribbons and their hair. But conversation with them, as he kind of backs away, is ever so wanting. What is it you have been reading?
And she tells him the Treaty de Poisons. What about you?
I quite enjoy that book as well. I have it on my night shelf. Indeed, I have been studying history. I'm here visiting my family, away at university. I'm 1 year away from completion.
He kind of comes back again.
And like she just keeps discussing books with him because normally
Sure.
people don't.
Yeah. And so in between it all, you have this like wonderful like conversation, and it's like an elevate. It's the first time you've probably had such a conversation, like an elevated thing where you're talking about like the quality of the work itself. You're talking like sharing theories and impressions. But ultimately you, like the dance is a fairly lengthy one, but it ends. Gotta move off to the side. And you can continue dancing, but if you do a second dance in a row, well, there will be rumors that will start to swirl. And if you do a third dance, well, you damn well better be engaged at that point.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
If he asks her to do a second dance, though, she will do a second dance.
You got an extreme success. So as you move off, as you go to leave the dance floor, like we'll say you start to leave the dance floor and you hear, might I beg a second dance, Miss Wentworth?
And she'll kind of pause because this has never happened for her before. And she'll turn around and be like, I would be delighted.
And you can see his smile is just enormous, like this just enormous smile. He's got a very kind of Hugh Grant kind of look to him, narrow face a bit in a way, if you're familiar. Young, you would say, you'd peg him in his mid-20s or so. He kind of grabs your hand, and it's a much slower song, and you're close to each other a little bit longer this time around. It's not you're not doing, it's not prom night, but it's yeah. So you kind of reading, it's like, would it be? You can see he kind of coughs a bit as this second dance finishes. Might I call upon you sometime, Miss Wentworth? I have many books you might find enlightening. In addition to conversation.
Yes. I would. Yes. And she can't really say anything like eloquent like she normally would. She's just kind of stunned.
And so then soon. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for the delightful evening.
Thank you.
And he bows gracefully, and then he saunters off. And then when he's not more than 15 feet away, you see him look back over his shoulder, and he just sort of to look at you, Georgiana, as he does, and then he kind of turns back around quickly.
That's adorable. What are the Babington sisters saying as we approach? Do they have good things to say about Mr. Lushington?
Well, you made your etiquette test, so they come over, and I would say they're kind of looking at you with fairly wide eyes. You danced with him twice in a row. You were with him for a significant period of time. And so they were... And then they get up close to you. Your sister is going to be delighted. Ever so delighted.
He wishes to call upon me.
And they all start like squealing at that point, embarrassingly loud. And a few people kind of look over in your direction when that happens. Okay. But no, they seem to be positive towards it. Very, very encouraging of you, and shocked that you would be so bold to actually dance a second round with this young man.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to cut to the two that are currently wandering through the maze, this hedgerow maze, looking. You don't find her in the maze itself, but at a certain point, you do, as you're kind of looking around through like some of the windows from some of the glasses, the glass windows and stuff, you see towards the kind of the eastern side of the building, you can see that Miss Elizabeth, Mr. George Potterton, and others, so she's not by herself, are behaving very peculiarly. You can see them, they're repeatedly exiting and entering 2 doors in the rear wall of the property next to the ballroom. Like, they're just doing it, and they're giggling, and they look like they're conversing, and they're like they're, you can't hear them from where you're at, but they seem very engrossed, and it's the most odd behavior.
Emma's going to look around for any gossipy older lady types, and when she's convinced there aren't any, will kind of mutter to Jane, like, should we go see what the boys are up to?
I'm quite curious what she's up to. Let's make sure everything is okay.
I'll walk over.
So, Jane, Emma, you walk over towards, you come back inside, and you effectively, you head towards the, I'll ping it on the map so you guys can get a vague idea. So you two are right here. Last we saw James Bennett, he left the library. I think Georgiana is still in the ballroom. And I put you in the wrong parlor, Stone. You're actually in the small parlor over here. That's where Captain Stone is. There's two different parlors. So, Emma, Jane, you come across, and there's Miss Elizabeth with some of her friends as you would recognize Jane, but also George Potterton. He's probably the oldest of the group here, but he seems to be sort of delighted to spend this time, it seems, kind of taken a bit with Miss Elizabeth, as everyone is. She's a very delightful young lady. But you can see that, well, there's 2 corridors here. There's this corridor that seems to be like the servants' corridor, and you would know, Jane, that this is basically the servants' corridor is specifically for servants coming and going with access to like the kitchen, the dining room, small parlor, all sorts of things. Whereas the other corridor is for residents of the house and guests to sort of move back and access the gardens, which is where you're coming from. And so when you roll up, you can see that Miss Elizabeth and her friends, they're freely wandering up and down both of these corridors. And you would also know that's somewhat unseemly for them to be going up and down, especially the servants' quarter, and sort of kind of possibly getting in the way. And every now and then you see like one of these servants kind of come out, and they're trying to be respectful, but at the same time, some of them are carrying, like refreshments and stuff to load back up on the table, or they're bringing out what looks like, drinks or snacks for the people playing cards in the parlor. But it's just very strange. And like, they're kind of like shrieking and like kind of yelling at, they look confused and just insanely delighted.
And so Jane would wait for Miss Elizabeth to, kind of come closer and just say, "Oh, Miss Elizabeth, what do you find yourself to be passing the time doing?"
Oh, Jane, it is the most peculiar thing in the world.
What is that?
Well, there are these... They don't believe me. Mr. George here thinks me an insufferable young... That is not true. I didn't say that. I just said there's clearly a reasonable explanation for this.
And you can tell that the two of them are kind of being sassy with one another, but in a familiar way. But she says,
well, it's the strangest thing. I was playing early this morning in the corridor, as you know that she does. And Jane, you're older than her, so there are times in which she's still kind of doing some childish things. I think she's like 14 to 16, somewhere in that range. So she still does some things that are probably a little bit younger than you would probably be comfortable with. But she explains, like, I just found it's very, ever so strange that the corridor seemed longer than I remember it. And I've lived my whole life here, and I've played in these corridors since I was a very young girl, and just did not seem that it was the length was consistent with my memory. That's all. And, well, we measured it, and despite the fact that I am correct, George seems to think that I am wrong. That's not what I said. I just said there's clearly must be some sort of reasonable explanation for this.
And so your method of solving this dispute is to like silly children jump in and out, and this is going to solve this mystery?
Well, I just she kind of looks a little bit like flummoxed, especially with like you kind of calling her out in front of George like this, kind of almost seeming to sort of take her side. Well,
I mean, if the answer is yes, Miss Emma and I could certainly join if this would help this experimentation, I suppose.
I would love to know what it is you're hoping to get by jumping into the hallway.
So you see like her and her friends that they're all trying to like measure the corridor differently. Some of them are like taking steps. Some of them what looks like they're using what looks like some found rope or cords or something like that. And they're going back and forth between the corridors, measuring them. So they're like, some of them come back and like they step and they lose count. Like, I must have lost count. That can't be right. And they turn back down the corridor and they start doing it again. John, go ahead and roll a spot hidden, we'll say.
That's something else I'm okay at. I got a 40 in that. 32.
You notice through like the door as one of the servants kind of come in and brings your group, this group of young people, some of whom you've spoken with, including Emma Wentworth and Jane. Actually, I don't know if you met Jane, but you see them kind of congregating and getting kind of loud, like their voices get kind of loud, and they're moving up and forth. They nearly knock over a servant at one point. It's sort of it's just this gaggle of people that are just doing all this sorts of weird, strange things.
Is it so socially awkward that I would want to like investigate, or that I would want to distance myself from it?
Well, that's up to you, man. It's just they're making a bit of a, bit of a scene, but it doesn't seem to be like they're right in front of the large congregation of the ballroom. Like they're somewhat reserved from it.
I would probably make some excuse to get up, say I'll be back momentarily, and I would leave my money and my chips, and I would just walk out there to see what's going on.
Okay.
And not like walk directly to them, but like, do like the walk past, like excuse me, just passing through type thing.
Okay. So you step out, and Em and I will say at this point you see Captain Stone kind of standing a few feet away, watching these young people kind of coming and going, kind of going up and down the corridors, measuring it here and there. And every now and then you hear like, that can't be right. No. And like they all seem to be confused, but like in like as if it amuses them. They don't seem to be like truly bothered, but it's just like a weird kind of quirk. And this is what you see.
What are you doing, Emma?
I think as soon as see Captain Stone will sort of wave you over.
At first, Captain Stone would be like, you would like have eye contact with him and wave him over, and he, as soon as you made eye contact, he quickly looked away, but he did see the wave, so he just kind of does a straightens his shirt and then begins to walk towards you.
Amazing. Miss Radcliffe, Miss Northlake, Mr. Butterton, I'm not sure if you've had the pleasure of meeting Captain Stone, but Captain Stone, please meet everybody else at the party tonight, and I just do a round of introductions.
And you go through Captain Stone, Mr. Potterton, Captain Stone, Miss Elizabeth. That kind of goes round and round.
Sure. And
Miss
after
Northlake,
all
I
of
believe
that
I
is
just
done-
met your father.
Sorry, cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Oh, is he playing cards again?
Yes, I believe I've made him quite a bit richer tonight.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that greatly. Now,
I believe your ability to count will come in handy then, Captain Stone. We have some disagreement about the length of this corridor. And I explain to him what we've been doing.
And Jane will kind of jump on that and say, oh my goodness, that's so right. You must have, in all of your illustrious time in the military, you must be able to measure things without always having the proper tools on hand. This would be something that you must very much be good at.
Well, engineering is a useful skill in the military. Perhaps I could attempt to tell you my best judgment. And I would count off steps for the corridor, taking very precise steps, like a practice motion, like one long step. And I would count how many it was. And I'd come back and tell them that many yards.
I feel like there's a chorus of counting that's happening while you do this.
Okay.
Whether it's useful or not.
I love that.
So, Captain Stone, so you have to go down both corridors. Like you measure one and measure the other, and you can see that at the end, like if you're looking at the map, they both end in a door. They both are affixed to the same wall, and they both open up at the same end. It's the same. You know, they should be the same length. They're perfectly in line with one another. As you're taking the time to do this measuring, you're kind of counting out your steps and then using that steps to kind of convert into, normal movements. You kind of sort of your head kind of cocks to the side a bit, and it's the strangest thing. But the long corridor, the one not the servants' corridor, is measured out at about 3 feet longer. But that can't possibly be right, because you can tell, like, these two corridors go from one end to the other. They share a same wall at the very end. There's doors at the very end, and both going outside. It's kind of do it a second time. Comes out again, 3 feet. Very, very peculiar.
I flash the group a confused look. They see that I've counted it twice, and I just look back at the floor and I start walking it again a third time.
So, do you have... You're not going to think of this, so I'm going to tell you. You have artillery, right?
I actually was going to ask artillery for measuring distance.
Yeah.
What else would I use artillery for in this?
Go ahead. Well, wait until Act 2. Go ahead and roll artillery.
That is a 20, and I needed a 40.
Okay, so
that's a hard success?
Nice.
Just half, yeah.
So after doing it a couple times and getting this weird number, maybe you drank too much brandy, a little distracted. You get down to business, you focus. I mean, Miss Wentworth is right there. Like, you don't want to look like a fool. And you actually start properly measuring it. You use your experience with artillery, and the left-hand corridor, every time you do it, is basically 26 paces, 66 feet. The servants' corridor is 24 paces, 60 feet. You're 100% possible. You're 100% positive of this, and you're also 100% positive that this is impossible. Absolutely, utterly impossible. Roll a sanity test, actually.
All right, how do I do sanity?
So roll a D100 and compare it to your sanity score.
I'm going to push this if I can. Can I push a sanity roll?
I cannot remember if you can push a sanity roll. I think it's just you're screwed. Let me double check.
Yeah, it wasn't
If
in Delta Green, we couldn't. It was what it was.
I needed a 40 and I rolled a 95.
Yeah, I think it's just skill rolls you can push.
The war really did you in, starting off with only 4.
Yeah, like I said, the horrors of the peninsula.
The horrors of the peninsula.
So yeah, it's no push on sanity, and you can't use luck on sanity, so it's just a fail.
So I failed.
Take 1 point of sanity loss, so reduce your sanity score by 1. And then obviously this should manifest in some particular way. So how does this manifest? This sort of this utter confusion, like this this seemingly mundane hallway is somehow breaking the laws of physics and engineering. This is not right.
This would be like a minor break, right? Mentally. Like it wouldn't be a major break yet.
Yeah, it's not like you're not losing your mind. It's not temporary insanity or something like that. But even a single point of sanity, like it could be something. It's usually something involuntary, like the idea of like RPing it as like some sort of involuntary reaction that you wouldn't have normally made.
I think I just literally cannot let this go, and I'm going to keep counting and counting and counting my steps over and over and over down these hallways. I've already done it 3 times. I'm going to do it another 10. Like this cannot be right. There's something wrong with my counting. I'm being very deliberate on my steps. I might even pull out my saber and like put it down on the ground and start counting my sabers just over and over. This has to make sense somehow.
And I'll say at this point, just because I want to get everyone in on this, Georgiana, you spot your sister, Emma, over by this corridor with some of the others. And then I'll say, James, as you're wandering past, maybe you peek into the small parlor for a moment. You look over and you see this renowned war captain has taken his saber out and is using it to measure a hallway. What a peculiar and perplexing thing. This is me inviting the two of you to be part of this.
Yeah. As Georgiana's approaching, she introduces herself to Mr. Bennett, and then turns to her sister. And, did the captain perhaps imbibe more wine?
No, Georgie, this, and I explained the weirdness with the quarters. Like, it's just something funny going on with this house. We thought it was perhaps brandy or wine, but it doesn't seem to be.
Mr. Bennett, do you perhaps have any ideas?
Any ideas? This is a folk tale. Does this make any sense?
Which one?
Oh, which one? Not specific. It's just what do they call it? What's it called when a figment of speech? Yeah, there we go.
A figment of speech.
Figure of speech.
A figure of speech.
Figure of speech. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I haven't read or heard that one, but I'll take your word for it.
Captain Stone, was it?
He's so
are you talking to
busy.
me?
I think he was, but yeah.
Captain,
Yes, 14, 15, shut up. 16, 17.
well, I never. Mr. Bennett, he appears to have become quite consumed with his counting skills, it would appear. But Miss Elizabeth, you've played on these halls for years, and this is only this evening suddenly the architecture of your home has amended itself?
How does one even arrive at that?
So at this point, she kind of lets out a sigh. It's like, I'll explain it again. But you see like her other friends, George is lingering, but the other friends are kind of gotten sort of bored at this and don't really care. And they kind of start wandering back to the ballroom, which you can see that it's getting to that time of night where people are starting to think about leaving. And she says, well, it started yesterday. I was playing a game of hopscotch in the long corridor here, and I noticed something odd. It was just ever so slightly longer than I remembered it being. And I went to looking down the servants' corridor, and, well, I noticed then that it was... I mean, they have a door at each end, and each of those doors fit perfectly with each other, and then, well, it turns out that as I was measuring it, my mind wasn't deceiving me. It was longer. But even stranger is that if
Captain Stone's measurements are correct, well, it's longer today than it was yesterday.
How much longer was it yesterday?
Oh, not very, but less than 3 feet. I didn't have a saber to use to aid in my measurements. I just used my paces, but it was an extra pace.
Peculiar.
Indeed. Very strange.
Have you perhaps checked the other hall?
What other hall?
Next to the library and main parlor? Is that one still the same?
I didn't even think of that. We should do that at once.
And she like loops her arm into yours, Georgiana, and
Mhm.
let us go.
All right.
And so the two of you go, and you get over towards the main parlor, the library, and you start doing the hall and kind of going up and down. Now,
I don't normally spend too much time in this hall. Father would like it if I was making too much noise outside of his library, but this seems to it seems to be about right. Yes,
and she's kind of going up and down and up and down.
Mhm.
no, this appears right. I think yes.
Okay.
So meanwhile, while they step away, what are the rest of you doing? Well, John is losing it.
So Jane is wanting to go over to the she's basically looking for like hidden areas in the wall. Like,
okay.
I would imagine that's something that she's probably done before. So she's doing lots of kind of knocking along the.
Yeah, go ahead and roll a spot hidden test.
All right, that's a 50 for me, so I've got a decent chance. And that is a 43, so a regular success.
Okay. So you're going up and down. The corridor is like somewhere, like I said, like it's whatever number I gave Stephen. But you can see it's sort of stone flagged floor. There's all these different like candle sconces along, these wall mounted candle sconces. The walls are very somber in terms of their shade. There's artwork in here, but it's not as high quality, you think, judging from your appraisals of other pieces elsewhere in the home. There is only one door beside like the entranceways, and it's at the far end of the corner, so it's just like here to here. And if you're looking around for something like hidden, you don't notice like any like hidden entrances. You play around with the sconces and sort of do the classic, see if they move and open up. No, none of that seems to happen. You do notice that the long corridor, like the door from the parlor to the long corridor, has a lock, and it suggests that at some point there were also like fairly stout bolts on the parlor side of the door, but they have been removed, and like you can see the traces have been kind of painted over. The presence of bolts like that on an interior door is a little unusual, as is the fact that it was locked. Like such a bolted lock on between an interior door is particularly strange.
And so in terms of direction, it would mean like you were in the small parlor and locking so that you couldn't get to the long corridor.
So I'll ping it on the map, but like that door right there shows signs of old bolts, but not the type of bolts that you would use on an interior door that would go from one interior room to another. It's more the type of bolts that you would have on a door that went to the exterior.
Okay. And I'm just checking direction that like in the small parlor, you're making sure something from the outside can't come in the long corridor into the parlor, or the other side of the door.
Let me take a look at it again. On the parlor side.
Parlor side.
So
okay.
there were, they're on both sides. There's bolts on both sides.
That is interesting. I would like to, if possible, commence the same sort of knocking to the other corridor as well.
You want to do the same kind of knocking? Oh, okay. You're going down the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you kind of annoy some of the servants as you do so, because if you look at the servants' corridor, it goes towards the kitchen.
Yeah, and it's narrower than the other one.
And there are the back stairs that the servants use as well, and eventually kind of get out to the laundry and everything like that too. But once more, you don't find anything to suggest out of the ordinary, and you don't find any like hidden doors, hidden areas, nothing like that.
And so Jane will kind of look to Mr. Bennett and Miss Wentworth and just I'm not immediately finding any answers. There don't seem to be any hidden panels or any hidden areas here. I don't understand.
Then let me try upstairs. I'll go up to like the balcony above this area. See if there's anything different. Or weird.
Scandalous.
I do believe I should accompany you. It would be very
Even
unlike-
more
Even more
scandalous.
scandalous. Damn right.
we should all venture up there. It would.
Even
Maybe.
more scandalous. Jeez.
I'm trying to make this better. I'm going in the wrong direction. Perhaps we should go see what Miss Elizabeth has done, and then we could all
Okay.
venture in that direction.
You go upstairs. So there's the servants, the back stairs, servant stairs. You can go up that, or you can go up the main stairs. It would be much more noticeable if you went up the main stairs. So if you're trying to avoid scandal, only the servants will see it, and servants see a lot of things. So you go up the back stairs, we'll say. And there is this.
Does Captain Stone join us upstairs, or is he
Oh yeah, good question.
still
17, 18, 19.
Captain Stone? We are looking to go upstairs, and perhaps there are things to be measured there. If you would like to join us.
How long would my break last there, Jeff?
So it's not like anything. It's really just like a momentary thing. Like when you lose like 1 point of sanity, it's just like a cue for you to do something like screaming, "Ah!" or
Gotcha.
but which wouldn't make sense here, but like something small. There's temporary insanity, but that's losing a bunch more, and there's a whole other process, and we'll worry about that if that ever happens. But you have to lose more sanity at once than just a single point.
Okay.
If we can say that you're saying shut up to Miss Radcliffe was like the manifest of that, because I imagine Captain Stone is very proper.
Complete lack of
and
decorum.
And actually, like if Miss Radcliffe is asking Captain Stone to join us, Emma is definitely like not just like. Perhaps Captain Stone will find his manners if he does choose to join us. I just vouched for you with my sister when she asked if you had imbibed too much, and I had said no. But perhaps I was mistaken, Captain.
Well, I'm sorry. Did I speak harshly to you, Miss Radcliffe? I thought I was speaking to the fop Bennett.
Well, I'm not quite sure that telling someone to shut up is polite speech, no matter the gender. But have you regained your wits?
Apologies. There's just... I thought there were different amount of steps, and there are different amount of steps. Yes, I have my wits. I will join you.
Oops. So you go upstairs, and you're on this balcony. It's a very lengthy balcony. It overlooks the ballroom. It overlooks the entranceway, the sort of the grand foyer. It connects to various bedrooms and things up here. You're not really supposed to be there. You do periodically kind of catch sight of a servant giving you a very cross look, but you do have full run of the place. What are you looking to do up here?
What? I'm sorry. Can you ping on the map where we are?
So you are on the eastern balcony,
Okay.
this long run of balcony, which is right over top of the corridor.
Got it. I'll be honest. I have not come to this part of the Northlake mansion before. But Miss Radcliffe, I was informed that you had been staying with the Northlakes. Perhaps you are able to understand these balconies if they are shorter or longer than perhaps they should be.
Well, if the captain was looking to do some saber measurements, as it appeared, this wall here, and she'll point to sort of that back wall that overlooks the back of the house. If you measure from there, and then she'll measure to sort of the corner point of the opening down below, that measurement should be the exact same length as the corridors below.
Yes, I should not have drawn my saber. I apologize for that. I will count off the steps again.
Whichever method of counting seems to work for you. And then she'll just sort of turn to Mr. Bennett, and while he's doing his counting, I don't think we've been properly introduced. I hear you are a university man.
Oh, I've just recently graduated
Oh, that's
from
wonderful.
Oxford.
You're James Bennett.
You know me.
I know of you. I know of your work specifically.
Oh,
It is quite magical.
why, thank you.
Miss Radcliffe, did you know Mr. Bennett writes the most beautiful poems?
I did not realize that. So you, she's a con artist, so she's like, oh, so you went to university and came out learning how to write poems.
Oh, I knew how to write them when I went in.
Well, then pray tell, why go to university then?
Oh, to study knowledge, to understand the past artists that made poems, understand art.
And you kind of see Jane just taking a deep breath, because she did not come from money, and just this idea of just spending all of this time and effort to learn something you already knew is just absolutely flummoxing her. And so she just sort of like takes a deep breath. I see that. Captain, how is that counting going?
How is my counting going?
Okay, so I'm not going to make you re-roll your artillery. You've already done it. It does require you at a certain point to make a very awkward re-entrance into the small parlor to confirm the length of the small parlor, which garners some very curious looks from the men in there, who you can tell are kind of getting, like, they're all kind of in the process, like the women, the card game that the women were playing in here, they've since left. Those of you who are up on the balcony, you can see that people are starting to dwindle and leave, but they kind of look at you strangely. Some of the servants
My
come
money's
in.
still on the table too, and
Yeah.
I'm not even looking at it.
But then you come back up and you do your, it takes a good long, like 15, 20 minutes or so, and the manor is getting less crowded and less crowded by the minute, where you're starting to linger, all of you are starting to linger a little bit longer, like approaching the sort of the edge of lack of decorum. But Captain Stone, you're eventually able to rejoin the rest of everyone else up on the balcony, including Miss Elizabeth, including Mr. George Potterton, and you are, with 100% certainty, the length of the balcony on the second floor is the identical length of the small parlor in the servants' corridor. However, the long corridor maintains that like 3-foot differential, which makes no sense considering how you are standing currently above the long corridor, and it shouldn't be this way.
It's the long corridor that has the extra pace. The balcony matches the parlor and the servants' corridor. The long corridor is stretched.
It's so strange. And you were able to get into the small parlor? You said it was bolted earlier.
It had the appearance of having once been bolted, meaning it used to, like, which is odd for an interior door to have such bolts. That's usually the type of bolts reserved for an exterior door.
Yeah, the small parlor's where I was playing cards.
Exactly.
Got it. And I know Jane said she was looking for something in the corridor earlier.
Yeah, she was looking for like hidden, like anything hidden, and you weren't able to find anything. You did find some like chalk marks probably, but Ms. Elizabeth would explain that was her kind of doing her own
Her hopscotch.
experimentation. Yeah.
Mhm.
I would like to go downstairs again to the long corridor and go outside and like look at that back wall and make sure that it actually is flush.
You go back outside. And I would say at a certain point, you're kind of getting asked to leave the second floor. Those of you that are lingering and you're looking down at that ballroom and you notice there's maybe like 5 or 6 people that aren't servants that are in the ballroom still. They're all kind of starting to leave. You go back out, Captain Stone and whoever else follows him. You look at that rear wall. It is flush. The doors to the long corridor, the doors to the servants' corridor are flush. They're on the same wall. There's no recess. There's no protrusion at all.
And being in the end of the corridor, it's like not any different.
Yeah, you walk. So where the doors enter into the small parlor, they're on the same flush wall. Where the doors exit outside, the same flush wall. Yet if you measure it, if you walk down it, the long corridor is somehow 3 feet longer.
Listen, I'm not an architect. I just write poems.
You know, you could have studied architecture while you were at university.
It would have been more useful for our nation.
More useful, but not everyone's interested in that. As I
Well,
drop it,
this was just a delightful jape, but now it is unsettling.
I'll just drop some lines as I leave because this is perplexing.
Okay. And you do hear the coughs of like servants and things like that, like the head butler that you would know, James. Good.
And the walls may whisper of the stories they hold within. They remain steadfast and silent, guarding their secrets within.
I love you, man.
Being prepared, I
You're
love
just
it.
the best. You're the best, dude.
So Jeff, I have a question.
Yeah.
Within this home, this is referred to as the long corridor,
No,
or this is just what it says on the map?
this is what we're referring to it as.
Okay, that's what I wanted to check and make sure. Okay.
Yeah. It's just the corridor. It's what you would use, whereas the servants would use the servant corridor.
Okay.
As
Yeah.
you all are being unceremoniously asked to leave, everyone make a spot hidden as you look back at the long corridor. You look back, kind of shaking your head. Like Emma was saying, this is kind of perplexing and unsettling. Everyone make a spot hidden.
That's a fail, 85 over 50.
And this is going to be the last roll of the night, so if you want to burn any luck, you're welcome to do so. You're going to get some at the start of the next session.
Would you say that I'm back?
I would say everyone's there, yeah.
Okay. I got the best success you can get.
Extreme?
I got a 6, yeah.
Okay.
At a hard
Nice.
success.
Hard success. Okay.
I also got a hard success.
All right.
I failed, but I'm spending luck. So I got a 34 over 25. So I'm going to spend my luck.
Wow, everybody but Jane succeeded.
So as you all are leaving, Georgiana, something kind of as you're looking, like you come back briefly and you see everyone kind of getting hustled out. You see the head butler is kind of very politely asking people to leave. You look down the corridor and you see something very, very, very peculiar. You see that there is a section of the shared wall between the corridors, roughly midway between the floor and the ceiling. It's about, this section is maybe about 6 feet wide. And as you're looking at that wall, which prior to this was a very, like every time you've looked at it, looks like a normal wall, it almost appears like it's partially opening, like a Venetian blind in some way.
Mm.
Stone, Bennett, you kind of catch the sight of like Georgiana. You kind of look in her direction, and when you look in her direction, like you don't, it just looks like a wall. You see the kind of weird look on her face. But then you kind of step a couple couple feet to the left. And you kind of almost stand behind her in a almost inappropriate kind of closeness. So you're looking over her shoulder and you see the same kind of deal. It almost looks like there's these like lines that have suddenly appeared in the wall, but only from a particular angle. Emma, you're the last one to kind of pick up on this as well, but you did the same thing as you're walking out. You turn around maybe to grab your sister. And as you grab your sister, just almost accidentally, you look over her shoulder and you can see these blinds are very thin, but you can tell that part of the wall seems almost like it's open. And all of you can see that on like that very tiny thin lines. You don't see the servants' corridor through the wall, which is what you would imagine to see is the shared wall. You see something else. You see this dark, kind of gray expanse of desolate, like rock, almost as if you're looking outside. And we'll end on that for our first session, and we'll pick up with our second session next week. How are we doing?
Yay.
I jumped through it.
Holy.
It's literally razor thin. I don't think you can. Oh, man.
Oh, that was a lot
Think
of
you're
fun.
That was
saving
fun.
through it.
That was fun.
Oh, goodness. Thank you guys for getting into the, like I'm like, I don't know how much they're going to want to do this whole like socialization stuff. I think it's delightful and wonderful.
It's so
Long's
good.
got game.
Long with the
Right?
poems.
Honestly,
Long is
didn't
making
get to
the
any of
poems.
Cthulhu stuff till like the last half hour.
Yep.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, I'm fine with it. I love like JLs. Are you kidding? I could have done just that. Just that. I don't know if it feels like that. I could have done that.
Thank you, everybody that hung out.
Yeah, thanks everyone who
Yeah,
hung out
thanks.
for us flirting with each other in 19th century England.
Didn't realize we were gonna have Regency dating sim.
Right.
But it's what
I warned you. I warned. No, okay. So yeah, we'll be back next week, and we'll conclude this next week. That's the idea. We're playing it for a 2 session, so we'll do our second session next week. You come find out what happens here in Northlake Manor. Why don't we do some closing plugs here? Maitre, tell us where can people find you?
I am firstly super thankful to have been here. So thank you so much for
Thank you for
inviting me.
playing with us.
You are
This
the
is
best
so-
sister to have. It's been great.
I had so much fun throwing Georgie, and I had anyone on the pulse. It was great. So thank you very much for having me. My name is Maitre. I Maitre Plays Games on YouTube. I put out multi-system or system agnostic tabletop content weekly. Accessibility is super important to me, so I've started to do tone indicators, but my content is subtitled and available in audio format as well. If that stuff works better for you, I also have written format on a blog if anyone uses OCRs and that kind of thing. But otherwise, thanks so much.
Awesome. Fantastic. And I dropped the link in the chat. But also, if you're watching this later on the YouTubes, check the description. You'll find everyone's links, all that kind of stuff. Steven, you want to just tell us about what you're doing next week on this same channel that we're currently on right now?
On this same
channel.
Oh my god.
9 p.m. Central, we will be back for Haunted West, the good, the mad, and the unholy. There will be a couple familiar faces here. We got Maitre, we got Jeff, we got Long. We got some other guy from Defenders of Kobold. You guys don't know him. He's not that popular.
Really hairy feet. That's all I know.
Some dude.
It's been a lot of fun. This is our final arc. I threw a murder at the posse. They are framed for it. They have to find who did it so that they can clear their names. Please come join us. It'll be a lot of fun. We're wrapping up soon. So this is your last chance to get us with all of our posse jokes.
Nice.
I was gonna say, come and see what alliteration Steven does, because that's
Right?
like a big part of it.
It is a part of it. That is a thing that Steven does. All right, and then for the rest of us, the rest of the things we're doing. See, tomorrow, One Ring, second edition, right here. We're also going to be giving away a set of dice from our friends at Norse Foundry. So that'll be tomorrow during our One Ring session. We're going to be some awesome Bifrost dice. They look really cool. Then Monday, we will be doing some, I think, Electric Bastionland. I think we're going to do as a one-shot, as we don't have time to really start up our Horror on the Orient Express yet. We're waiting for January for that, but we're going to be doing some Electric Bastionland, so come back for that. And then Tuesday, as Steven said. So that's about it. Thank you for everyone who hung out tonight. We're going to go ahead and raid our aforementioned hairy-footed friend over at the Donors of Cobalt. So follow us along with the raid. Click the raid button when it pops up. Say hi. If you haven't followed us, please do. If you haven't followed my trade, please do. Do all that kind of stuff. And we'll catch y'all later. So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, guys.